Chop 'em to the left. Chop 'em to the right. Chop 'em every chance you get. Right, right, right. All right, creeps. It's fourth and goal. They're probably expecting us to run a ghost pattern, so let's run a scream pass instead. Of course, I could pull out a few other surprises from my playbook, like tonight's tale. It's about a couple of brothers who are planning a little high scaring of their own in a nasty bit of offense I call people who live in brass hearses.
Oh, hell, who drank all the Hawaiian punch?
I don't know.
Shit.
Butter?
No, thanks. Hey, Billy. Do you think that Frank and Jesse James ever planned a warehouse robbery?
Maybe.
An ice cream warehouse, Billy, you think maybe?
No, not an ice cream warehouse, little brother.
Well, we're still a lot like Frank and Jesse James, ain't we, Billy?
Yeah, kind of. Shut up. I'm watching this.
And of course, Frank and Jesse James rode horses, and we drive around an Impala, but an Impala is a kind of horse, right, Billy, ain't it?
Hey! Enough of this Jesse James shit! Forget about him. He was a wussy. Did he ever do 2 years in San Quentin like I did he?
No, Billy.
Oh, shit, Verge. You know I didn't mean that. You know that, right? Right? Hey, come on. Come on now. Who's your big brother, huh? Huh? Who's always looking out for you, huh?
You are, Billy. You're the best.
You goddamn right I am. Now, come on. What's with all the questions about the gig tomorrow? You getting nervous?
Oh, Billy, I know what to do.
Well, good, because we can't afford any fuck-ups now, can we?
Sure can't. That'd be trouble. That'd be big trouble.
Yeah, big trouble. So let's go over it one more time. Who's on your shift?
Tom and Cooter.
All right, and what's the first thing you're gonna do when you get in there?
Tell little Tom to go pick up a transfer over at 41 right away.
And if he gives you any grief?
Tell him that the call came down from the district super. And then I'll wait for Cooter to go on his break, and then unlock the door.
No! God! You disengage the fire alarm, then you unlock the door. You got it?
Right.
Please tell me you got it.
Right. I'm sorry. I'll remember, Billy. I promise. I promise.
Good. Let's hope so. All right. Enough of that. Now get your shirt on. There's one thing I want to do before the shit hits the fan tomorrow.
What's that, Billy?
Eat a little ice cream.
Some things never change, no matter how long you've been away. You'll eat again, Mr. Bird.
Patience, my little friends! Patience! Remember, there's a method to my madness.
Hey, Mr. Bird, it looks like all our friends want ice cream.
Of course they do, little Willie. But what should we do first?
Bite the big one.
Well, if it's the big one Danny wants, Mr. Bird, I'd recommend one of my delicious Frosty Freeze fruit drinks.
Oh, that's a good idea, little Willie. They come in 8 exciting flavors, and they're good for you, too. In fact, I think I'm going to have one right now. Why don't you tell the boys and girls a little knock-knock joke while I enjoy this fabulous...
Okay, boys and girls, who wants to hear a knock-knock joke? All right, knock-knock.
Who's there?
Uh-oh.
I said, who's there? What's the matter, Bird? Don't you recognize one of your old vendor buddies? I used to drive a rig just like this. Of course, look a little worse for wear. See, I just spent the last 2 years of my life rotting in prison. But you should remember that. You put me there.
I remember, William. You were trimming your profits, selling your inventory on the side. You were stealing.
Hurry it up, butthead.
Just kidding. He's absolutely right, kids. I got what I deserved. Hey, and to show you what a sport I am, I'll even take something to go. Let's see. You got anything in, butternut?
Nope.
Butterbrickle?
Nope.
Buttermilk?
Nope. I do have butterscotch.
Fine. Make it 2. Can you break this?
Certainly. Now, I do hope you don't harbor any hard feelings, William. I mean, what's done is done.
Gee, you're a smart man, Bird. I only wish I'd have come and talked to you sooner. Hey, kid. Eat up.
Loser.
All right, who wants some ice cream?
Surprise.
Hey. Thanks.
You'll get yours tomorrow, Bird.
Billy, he's just an old puppet, man.
I don't care if he can pull monkeys out of his ass with a hairpin. I want payback!
Oh, sure, Billy, anything you say. You done hard time.
Oh, here, hell, have mine. Go on, take it. I lost my taste for the stuff.
Loading dock 4, that's lunch, 1 hour. Virgil? 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 Coda?
Damn it, where are them 2 monkeys anyway? Ow! Oh, God, wipe that smile off your face. Go on, both of you. Where were you?
Working!
Goofing off is more like it.
I was on my break.
Listen, mister, this is not a playpen for boys in short pants.
I ain't ain't Champagne.
Panic! Now, be old Bird just pulled in. And where is little Tom, huh? Huh?
He said that he had to go over to 41 and pick up a stock transfer.
What? And who authorized that?
District Super?
Oh, God damn it!
Damn him. How am I supposed to keep things running smoothly around here when all I'm left with is you two, you knuckleheads?
He should know that Mr. Bird is not a man who likes to be kept waiting. Been that way for 15 years. When Mr. Bird has a scheduled pickup, he arrives on time, and he expects the same courtesy in return. That's something that we call good old-fashioned values. You know, you boys could learn a thing or two from Mr. Bird.
Oh, I think we know all we need to know about Mr. Bird. Ain't that right, boys and girls?
Hell's bells, Billy. Is that you?
Scooter, how you been?
Good day, Miss Profunda.
And good day to you, Mr. Bird. I'll have your order ready in a jiffy, but bear with me, I'm a man short today.
Oh, no problem.
So, Mr. Bird, are we going to have the pleasure of seeing you at the Vendor Awards this year?
Oh, this year. Oh, I'm afraid not, Miss Profunda.
Well, it sure would be a welcome change to see you there in person. It's funny, but I just purchased a lavender pantsuit, and it would look mighty snazzy next to a fine gentleman like yourself.
I'm sorry, Miss Profunda, but I'm not much for such frivolous functions.
Oh, me neither. Let's say we just blow it off and have a nice quiet dinner alone together. Oh, you know, I make the best potato chip and green bean casserole you ever tasted.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Fine.
I'm not upsetting you, am I?
I said fine. It'll be $156.
156.
Yes, that's what I said.
Here we go.
Now you get it? Now you see what I'm talking about? We get him in here where nobody's gonna see us, and then we do the dirty deed. It's an extra $500 in cash, easy.
You didn't have to break Cooter's nose, Billy.
Virgil, the guy's an idiot. Forget about him.
No, he's not. He's smart, Billy. He really is. Like one time he asked me who'd win in a fight. Darth Vader, RoboCop, and the Munsters, and I thought Darth Vader'd win, but Cooter, he'd done like a whole bunch of research about it.
Will you shut up? Fuck, you stupid as he is. Oh, shit. Virgil! Virgil, come on, don't do this to me. All right, when Grafunder walks back to her office, Bird's De Niro, what are you gonna do? Oh, shit. Virgil! You're gonna wait till she pops that safe open, then you're gonna step in behind her, right? Right? Then you're gonna keep her there nice and quiet while I take care of Bird. You got it? Virgil, please. We don't have time for this shit right now. I need you on this one.
No, you don't.
Come on, yes, I do.
No, you don't.
We're a team.
You don't even like
we
me.
are.
You're
I do like
always
it.
yelling at me and you're hitting me and stuff.
No,
and
you
you're
got
just...
that all wrong, baby brother. Don't you get it? Don't you see? It's not me. It's them.
Who?
Them, everybody. Everybody out there saying the DeLuca brothers are shit. Screw them. They're garbage. They're scum.
Who's saying that?
Everybody, Virgil. Everybody.
No.
Yeah, oh yeah. Cops, bankers, lawyers. Even Grafunder.
Virgil!
I'm running a bit late.
All right, hold your horses.
Lazy jerk can't even load his own truck. Why should that change? Been that way for 15 years. Virgil!
I hate her.
So do I, bro. But we're outnumbered. You and me's all each other's got.
I'm gonna hurt her, Billy. I'm gonna hurt her for you. That'll show 'em.
No. You just follow the plan.
Yeah, but I want to. I want to hurt her, Billy.
Okay, do what you gotta do. Give her a titty twist or two. But use your head.
Okay, Billy. Okay, sure.
Virgil! Virgil!
All right, go.
fooling around like you haven't got a brain in your head. Go get Cooter and the two of you load Bird's truck. Hurry up! That jerk's got a stick up his ass about prompt attention, son of a bitch. Ow! Haven't you ever heard of knocking? Oh, wipe that stupid smile off your face. Why, do you think that's funny, huh? You know, people have been crippled for falls less than that.
Billy says I gotta keep you here.
Yeah, what's he got to do with anything? You stupid idiot. Hope your slimeball brother rots in prison.
Let's have some service out here. Hop to it, people.
Mr. Thunder!
Come on. Get out of the truck. Shit! What happened? Where's Graffunder?
Billy, I did like you said.
Mr. Thunder!
Tell me what you did. Tell me what you did exactly.
Billy? Oh, Billy, I'm sorry, Billy. I didn't mean to.
Mr. Thunder!
Stay here.
Come on. Enough of this.
No! Shit! Hey, Billy, what are we gonna do now? Life without parole. Come on, let's get that safe. Move it!
No. 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 Oh no, she closed the safe! Please tell me you took the money out.
No, I didn't take it out, Billy. You said you'd do it. That's the plan.
Freaking murder one, and we didn't get shit.
Billy, what about the puppet man?
Oh.
He's still got money, don't he? He said he had $500 easy.
Yeah. The puppet man. Hands where we can see him, Bird. We want it all. We don't mean 31 flavors.
Yeah!
No, please, spare me. It wasn't my idea to report you. I tried to talk him out.
Freeze! Enough of this crazy shit. Show him, Verge. Show him we got ways of making him talk.
Right, Billy?
You fucking idiot.
Oh.
Wouldn't tell us where the money was, would he?
Is he gonna tell us now? Huh? Is he? Is he? You
it! Just find the money, okay? You check the bedroom. I'll search the rest of the house. Do it!
Ice cream. How fucking original. Virgil, get in here. You gotta see this. Virgil! Woo! Hey, Virgil!
You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you?
No! You're dead!
I warned you.
Virgil! Virgil! Virgil!
Now it's just you and me, William. And it ain't over yet.
It's payback time! No! No!
Yes, yes. It's sad, isn't it? I'll bet you and your brother were real close.
Fuck you!
Let me tell you about my brother. Well, we were close too. Until he died.
In fact, we're still close.
Look how close.
Look what you've done! Look what you've done! God damn, Lord!
Brotherhood is kind of like a bond, isn't it? Kind that you can't easily walk away from. You know what I mean? Brother Earl, he wasn't quite a social butterfly. But when he was doing Little Willie's voice, he was one hell of an ice cream salesman. I'm really gonna miss him.
Go to hell, you freak!
You first.
Yo, Bird, your ice cream sucks.
Hey, kid, blow me.
And you smell too.
You hear that, Earl? The kid says we suck. Yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. And we smell. Go figure.
Shame about Billy and Virgil. But you know what they say, kiddies. 2 deads are better than 1. And as for Bird, he stayed in the ice cream business and did very well. Everyone loves Ben and Scaries. Well, I gotta get back to my practice. Next week we're playing the Washington Redskins. 45, 22, 33, hot, hot, hot! You idiot! I didn't call for a handoff. tell you, ladies and germs, that girlfriend of mine makes me so crazy. She told me she thought she'd look good in something long and flowing. So I threw her in the Mississippi. And how about that Ernest Hemingway, always shooting his mouth off? Ooh. Hello? Anybody? I know you're out there, folks. I can hear you bleeding. Is this on? I know what this crowd wants. A little slay on words. Maybe a couple of nasty fright gags? Something along the lines of tonight's nasty nugget. It's a little tale about marriage. Or if you prefer, about wife and death. I call it Two for the Show.
So I get up and I say, hey, screw making a lot of stupid product improvements that nobody cares about. You know what I'm saying here? I mean, why spend all that money when for nothing we can find ways to sell what's there to all those markets that never thought of buying our stuff in the first place? I mean, that is brilliant. And still, I'm catching flack from morons like Quimby. I mean, this dickhead thinks that just because he went and commissioned some goddamn feasibility study, that everyone should back off, you know? I mean, like the whole thing was his idea in the first place. I mean, can you believe this guy? So anyway, I said to Quimby, look, you asshole, I'm gonna fight you on this. I'm gonna fight you all the way to the goddamn board of directors if I have to. And you know what he said? He said, I don't care. So I said to him, okay, fine, pal. Be that way, because one of these days, I'm going to be a vice president, and when that day comes, I'm going to squash you like the insect that you are. This is really good. You should have seen the look on his face. And then, oh, I forgot to tell you, there's a big cocktail party Sunday afternoon. I know, you hate these weekend things, but this one is really important.
I have something to say to you, Andy.
And you know what? I'd like you to try harder to be more social. You know what I mean? It's not about liking people or not liking people. You know what I mean?
I'm leaving you, Andy.
You know, if you want, I'll make a list of things for you to talk about. That way you won't... What?
I said I'm leaving you. I want a divorce.
You what?
All you care about anymore is work. I want passion. I want hot sex on a white sand beach. I want to have a little fun and adventure while I'm still young enough to enjoy it.
All right. What's this really about? What, you want me to increase your allowance? Is that it?
I don't want money, Andy. I want out. If you want to know the truth, I've been having an affair.
An affair?
I'm in love. And I can't tell you how great it feels. We're running away together, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Who is he?
It's nobody you know.
I want the name.
Why? What are you gonna do? Squash him like an insect? You're not the man I married, Andy. And if you are, I didn't know it. Either way, the thought of spending the rest of my life with you is just too damn depressing. If anybody wants me, I'll be in Chicago.
Okay, you're serious. I can see that now, but look, you gotta work with me on this, okay?
I'm not negotiating with you, Andy. I don't want anything except a life.
So what are you gonna do? You're just gonna walk out on me?
The way I see it, Andy, you walked out on me years ago. When was the last time we made love? Can you even remember?
Don't do this to me, Emma. You know what kind of schmuck I'm gonna look like?
That's what really bothers you, isn't it? Well, let me put your mind to rest. You already look like a schmuck, because you are a schmuck.
Schmuck? Who's a schmuck? Huh? Good. Bitch! You want passion, Emma? How's this? God! Damn bitch. Come here.
Police department. Uh-huh. Are you sure it was a scream?
That's right. You're absolutely right. You know what? I don't care anymore, and I'm tired of talking to hell with me. No, to hell with you.
Right. But you're sure it was a scream? Mm-hmm. You say they Wood Glen Apartments. Do you know which unit? The Conways. Okay, we'll send someone over. Shit. There I was thinking I'd get some paperwork done tonight. Hey, could you and your wife argue a little more quietly?
Yeah, we'll work on it. What was that call just now?
Some woman. Says she heard a fight next door, and then a scream, and then nothing.
Did I hear the name Conway?
Yeah.
They in Wood Glen, Unit 402?
As a matter of fact, you know?
Don't think so.
Wait, what are you doing?
I'm on it. I want to see what this guy looks like.
What is it with you? Your shift ended over an hour ago. You're supposed to be going on vacation tomorrow with your wife?
I said I was going fishing. I didn't say anything about taking my wife. Open up, police department.
I'll be there in a minute.
I'm Officer Fine. I got a call from one of your neighbors who said they heard a scream. Mind if I come in?
No, not at all. The scream? Really?
Is your wife here?
No, she left. Actually, for good. We had an argument. I guess that's what my neighbor... which neighbor did you say it was?
I didn't. Did you go to a friend's house? Someplace we can reach her?
Actually, she's on her way to Chicago.
Chicago?
Yeah, she has family there. Look, officer, you know how it is. We had a fight. It got loud. She packed a bag and she left.
What's the deal with this?
Oh, I, cut myself shaving.
Mm-hmm. Mind if I look around?
No, not at all. It's like I said, I cut myself shaving. We keep the towels in the trunk.
Right. Marysville High. You go to high school around here?
No, I didn't.
Did your wife?
No, we moved here from Chicago about 5 years ago. Thanks.
It's a bubble bath, are you?
Yeah, you'd be amazed how relaxing they are. Especially after a long day.
So when your wife gets to Chicago, I'd like you to have her give us a call.
I'll do that, officer. The minute I hear from her.
Thanks for talking to us. Oh, when the other guys get here?
Other guys?
Yeah, standard procedure bullshit. Just tell them I was here already. And, of course, they'll probably want to look around for themselves. That's what we pay them for. It's been nice talking to you.
Looks like you'll be making that trip to Chicago after all, honey.
Passenger C. Clark. Passenger C. Clark, please come to baggage area.
Here you go, sir. Hi, can I help you, sir?
Yeah, I want to book this through to Chicago.
Fill this out for me, please.
Train number 311 from New York City, now arriving at platform 6. Train number 311 from New York City, now arriving at platform 6.
All done?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Show that when you get to Chicago and you're all set. You have a nice trip, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
I'm gonna be fine, all right? Don't worry about it.
Mr. Conway.
Okay, thanks for driving me down.
Officer Fine.
Take care.
I was at your apartment earlier this evening.
Oh, right. I didn't recognize you.
That's the point. Do a little plain clothes work. You, going somewhere?
Yeah,
Hey, mister, that trunk you're taking to Chicago, you forgot to fill out your name and address. And I tell you, if these things get lost, they get lost for good. There's no way they'd trace it back to you. Here you go.
Thank you.
Peoria and Chicago, now boarding at platform 11. Westbound.
You know, it's a funny thing, officer, but just after you left, my wife called. And she got to Chicago, and we made up. So now I'm going to Chicago to meet her.
Like a second honeymoon.
Right.
That's nice.
Might want to think about boarding now, sir. Your train's gonna leave as soon as I get these bags on.
You know, he's right.
Right.
Hey, come on. I'll walk you.
Get a seat near the back of the car. Near the back.
Give my best to Chicago, huh?
Great, thank you. Y'all get the break.
Shit.
Sweeter. You got
Stupid son of a bitch.
Thanks. All right. Excuse me.
Train gets in Chicago around 6 a.m. If we're lucky. Long time no see, huh?
You going to Chicago?
Yep. Case I'm working on. I can't really talk about it. I can't tell you how much I like happy endings. I mean, in my line of work, things don't always turn out so good. You're a very lucky man. What did you and your wife fight about in the first place?
Oh, well, she said I wasn't paying enough attention to her.
Is that right? My wife's the exact opposite. Thinks I pay too much attention to her. You know what I mean?
Well, that's nice, if you have the time.
Well, you gotta make the time. Thing is, what's a guy supposed to do when his lady just isn't interested?
I don't know. What do you do?
I'm asking you. I don't know. I mean, maybe marriage is the problem. People can be together too long, you know. I mean, take me. I've known my wife since high school. Can I ask you a personal question? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. I mean, it's not like you're under oath or anything.
Oh, sure.
Let's say you're gonna murder your wife. How would you do it?
I'm not a murderer.
Oh, come on. You telling me you never thought about killing your wife? We all have. Hey, lighten up, will you? I'll tell you what. I'm gonna tell you how you'd kill your wife, okay? Look, you don't look like a shooter, and you're not the stabbing type. It's a bad idea anyway, from a cop's point of view. I mean, that blood just spatters in all the strangest places. Places you wouldn't even think of when you're trying to clean up afterwards.
Look, I love my wife.
I got it. I think you'd strangle your wife with your bare hands, maybe. In a moment of rage. Am I getting warm?
You know, I haven't had anything to eat today. So if you'll excuse me.
I'll keep an eye on your seat for you. Boy, that looks good. What is that, the meatloaf? You know, it's funny, but when you said you were gonna get something to eat, I got hungry, which is weird because I usually get travel sick, you know? I end up throwing everything up. But that smells so good. You mind if I taste a little bit of it? Mmm, that is good. I think I'm gonna have that. Unless you're not gonna eat yours. Hey, thanks. I don't know why I'm so chatty with you. It's strange, but I feel like we have a lot in common. What's wrong? You look a little pale. How much of this stuff did you eat?
I'm fine.
See that guy back there? No. Does he seem like the kind of guy who's running $5 million worth of drugs?
Drugs?
You see? The airlines ain't safe anymore. You know, they got the metal detectors and shit. So now these guys, they're running drugs on the rails. That guy, this train, that's the case I'm working on.
Really? That's what you've been working on?
Amazing, isn't it? Nothing's sacred to them scumbags. What's so funny?
Oh, it's just, I mean, you know, running drugs on a train, I mean, it just seems so stupid. You know, it's like, who would have thought it, you know? So, how long have you been working on this?
Oh, a long time. Very long time. But today's big day.
Yeah?
See, what that guy doesn't know is a whole bunch of FBI agents are going to be getting on in Peoria.
FBI? Really?
And they're going to go through this train inch by inch before we get to Chicago. Every car, every nook, every cranny, every bag. Took weeks just to get the goddamn search warrants.
All bags?
All of them. T-minus 22 minutes and counting.
You know, I think there is something wrong with that meatloaf. I gotta get some air. Excuse me.
You okay?
Yeah. It's like I told you. I just needed some air.
Peoria. Right on time. Can I tell you something? You made a real bad mistake with the ring.
The ring?
The high school ring. I mean, maybe it's a little different for you big city types, but out here, high school rings still mean something. Marysville High, class of 77. I still wear it with pride. And when I give one of these things to someone, it means something. You see, I think someone gave that ring to your wife. And I don't buy for a second that she'd leave it behind.
You're the guy that's been having an affair with my wife.
What exactly are you gonna find when we open up your trunk?
You're not gonna find anything.
I doubt that.
Go to hell. You want to see what's in my trunk? Come on. I'll show you.
Fine.
These your FBI guys?
I lied. You're the case, asshole.
Oh, yeah? Well, I'm afraid I'm gonna have to break your heart.
Oh, go ahead. Break it. That is your trunk, right?
Yeah, that's my trunk, and that's the ID card I filled out. He saw me do it. You know, I don't know what I do with that key.
Open it up.
No problem. Thank you. But that just can't be.
Dead body hacked to pieces in your trunk? Seems pretty clear to me.
That's not my wife. This is in my trunk. I threw mine off the train.
You're full of shit. I was with you the whole time. You never left my side.
He's lying. Why don't you tell him about the affair you were having with my wife? And about the ring that you gave her?
That ring under your bed was a woman's ring. It was my wife's. My wife gave it to your wife when they started seeing each other. That's my wife in your trunk. Like you didn't know. Admit it! When you found out your wife was leaving you for another woman, you went berserk. Decided to get some revenge. That's why you murdered my wife, isn't it?
No, that's not true.
What are you saying, that you didn't kill anybody?
No, I mean, yes, I killed my wife.
Then where's her body?
It's in the trunk I threw off the train.
You saying you killed them both?
No,
You
didn't.
lying sack of shit! You better get your story straight, pal. Juries have a habit of frying perjurers. Now, you murdered my wife, and that's a fact. Now get out of my sight before I kill you!
No, he's lying. You set me up. He set me up. He set me up.
What a crazy son of a bitch. You think maybe he killed them both?
Nah, his wife left him. She was on a flight to Cancun. We checked it out this morning.
I don't know what's worse, to find out your wife was cheating on you or find out someone snuffed her.
I tell you what, they both suck.
There's an express home. Runs through here in an hour or so. Who wants to get your ticket?
No. I think I'm gonna rent me a car. I need to take some time. Life can be such a grind. You know, Emma, you don't look so bad for a woman who's been hacked up and thrown off a train.
That Barney's my kind of guy. He comes up with a plan, but it's Andy who has to hatch it. I guess it's true what they say. Better dead than wed. Time for my finish. Now that's what I call bombing. Take my life, please.
The night had a heavy, almost tangible darkness that seemed to press against the windows of the old Victorian house on the outskirts of town. The kind of darkness that wasn't just absence of light, but a presence in itself, thick and expectant, as if it knew things the living didn't. Abigail Merton had always felt it when she walked past the wrought iron gates that creaked and swayed in the wind, and tonight, returning from a late shift at the hospital, she felt it with an almost electric clarity. Her heels clicked against the uneven cobblestones of the driveway, echoing in the night like the measured steps of some unseen sentinel. The house had been abandoned for decades, everyone in town said, left to rot after the last member of the Hawthorne family had died in some scandalous fashion that no one dared describe aloud. And yet, it had a magnetic pull, a whispering promise that drew her closer, even though every rational part of her mind screamed to turn around. Inside, the air was cold, but not in a way that felt natural. It was cold, as if the house itself inhaled deeply and held the chill in its lungs. Dust motes swirled in the weak light of her flashlight, catching in the corners and edges of broken furniture, as though they were performing some silent, perpetual dance. The staircase groaned under her weight as she ascended, each step a complaint that echoed down the long, empty halls. She had come here on a dare, initially, a childish test of bravery, but now she realized it had nothing to do with courage. Something invisible and insistent, had been calling her here for weeks. She could feel it in the anxious flutter of her chest and the persistent ache at the back of her skull, like the memory of a dream she couldn't quite recall. The top floor smelled of old wood and decay, a heavy, almost sweet rot that clung to the curtains and the faded wallpaper. Abigail's flashlight beam fell upon a long hallway lined with doors that had been forced shut with chains and locks, most of them rusted beyond use. But at the far end, one door hung slightly ajar, its hinges squealing softly as the draft from the broken windows whispered through the room. She approached it cautiously, heart hammering. Inside, the room was small, almost a study, filled with bookshelves that sagged under the weight of leather-bound volumes whose titles were faded and illegible. A desk stood near the window, cluttered with papers yellowed with age, and atop it, a peculiar object caught her eye. A miniature brass hearse, exquisitely detailed, polished to an unnatural shine. Its wheels were immobile, but it seemed almost to quiver under her gaze, as if eager to move. Her hand trembled as she reached out to touch it. The moment her fingers brushed the metal, the air in the room thickened, and a low, resonant hum filled her ears, vibrating in her bones. The hairs on her arms stood on end. And then she saw it. Shadows shifting in the corners, not cast by anything tangible, but moving with a life of their own. They curled and twisted, forming shapes reminiscent of skeletal hands and faces, reaching toward the brass hearse as if drawn by its unholy magnetism. Abigail stepped back, stumbling against the desk, but the moment she did, the door slammed shut behind her with such force that the walls shuddered. Panic clawed at her throat and she yanked at the handle. Locked. Her breath came in ragged gasps as she spun around, flashlight illuminating nothing but the dancing shadows. And then she heard the first voice. Low, smooth, almost melodic, and undeniably human. "You shouldn't be here," it said, though there was no one to be seen. The words were a whisper and a roar at once, penetrating the marrow of her bones. Abigail swallowed hard. "Who's there?" she demanded, trying to sound braver than she felt. The shadows seemed to respond, swirling more frantically, forming a grotesque congregation at the edges of the room. Then, the second voice, this one softer but more insistent, joined in, layered over the first, creating a discordant harmony that made her head spin. "You should have stayed away. They don't like visitors." It was a warning, and yet she couldn't move. Her body was frozen, caught between the instinct to flee and the compulsion to stay. The brass hearse gleamed under the flashlight's beam, almost as if it were smiling at her, mocking her terror. She realized, with a cold spike of dread, that the miniature vehicle was more than just a model. It was a key to something beyond comprehension, something that had been waiting for her. A sudden noise drew her attention to the far corner of the room, where the shadows coalesced into a figure that was vaguely human in shape. It wore a top hat, its eyes glinting like wet stones, and its hands were skeletal, ending in elongated, polished fingers that seemed to stretch unnaturally toward the ceiling. The figure tilted its head, observing her with a patience that was deeply unsettling. Abigail wanted to scream, but no sound came out. The figure spoke, voice low and deliberate. "People like you," it said, "curious, intrusive. They rarely leave once they've seen." She tried to pull back, but the room itself seemed to conspire against her, shrinking subtly, walls bending in ways that defied reason. The shadows moved closer, encircling her, yet they did not touch. Instead, they whispered stories in her ears, half-formed and fragmented, of long-dead family members, of secret societies and rituals involving brass hearses, of people who never truly died but existed in some liminal state between life and death, sustained by their obsessions and fears. Abigail's mind swam, trying to hold on to reality, but reality was dissolving, becoming as malleable and deceptive as the shadows around her. And then, unexpectedly, the brass hearse rolled forward on its own, wheels squeaking softly against the wooden floor. It stopped just before the skeletal figure, and a door at its side opened. Inside was a hollow cavity, dimly lit, containing a collection of tiny objects, miniature coffins, rings, keys, and other trinkets, each one humming with a strange resonance. "Take one," the figure said, "and you may understand. Take none, and you may leave, eventually." Abigail's hands shook violently, drawn toward the tiny objects despite every rational instinct screaming for her to step back. She picked up a small ring, its surface etched with symbols she could not decipher, and immediately felt a surge of cold energy pass through her body. Suddenly, the room expanded again, as though it had been breathing in tandem with her fear, and the shadows retreated slightly, forming a loose circle around her. The skeletal figure tipped its hat, bowing as if acknowledging her choice. "You have chosen," it said simply. "And with choice comes consequence. The people who live in brass hearses do not forgive easily, and they do not forget." Abigail's pulse raced. She felt as if the world had tilted on its axis, as if gravity itself had become a suggestion rather than a law. Her vision blurred, and she could hear faint whispers growing louder, voices speaking in a language that was almost intelligible, filling her mind with fragmented images of funerals, ancient mansions, and endless corridors lined with brass hearses, each one carrying a soul unwilling to move on. The room seemed to pulse with anticipation, waiting for her next action, yet paralyzing her simultaneously. She realized she was no longer just a visitor. She had become a participant in a game that had been ongoing for decades, if not centuries. The tiny brass hearse had chosen her, and in doing so, it had linked her fate to a network of spectral caretakers whose devotion to their craft surpassed any human comprehension. The whispers intensified, converging into a single, almost melodic chant that seemed to emanate from the very walls. The watch is eternal. The ride is unending. The brass shall remember. Abigail's chest tightened, and she felt the first real surge of terror in her life. This wasn't just fear of death. It was fear of erasure, of being consumed and catalogued into a world she could never fully escape. Her fingers tightened around the small ring, and she could feel a pulse, as if it were alive, beating in sync with her own heart. The shadows paused, as though sensing the life force within her, and for a fleeting moment she considered throwing the ring away, smashing the hearse, anything to sever the connection. But some part of her, the part that had been inexplicably drawn here, wanted to know more, wanted to see what lay beyond the brass doors, beyond the skeletal watchmen and their spectral whispers. Outside, the wind howled through broken windows, carrying with it the faint scent of decay and old earth. But Abigail no longer heard it. She was fully ensnared, a willing participant in a ritual she barely understood, caught between the living world she had left behind and the spectral domain that the brass hearses protected. Somewhere, deep within her, a voice asked the question she could not answer. Would she survive the ride, or would she become one of the people who live in brass hearses? And the house waited, as it had for countless years, patient, eternal, indifferent. Abigail's pulse still thundered in her ears as the spectral figure receded into the corner of the room, leaving her alone with the brass hearse and the strange trinkets within it. She stared at the ring in her hand, feeling its cold weight settle against her palm like a stone that had been buried for centuries. The faint hum emanating from it resonated through her bones, a vibration that seemed to synchronize with the rapid flutter of her heart. She tried to shake it off, tried to convince herself that it was simply a piece of old metal, a relic of some eccentric collector, but the truth was undeniable. It was alive, or at least it possessed some consciousness that pressed insistently against the boundaries of her rational mind. Her gaze wandered around the room, lingering on the shadows that still lingered near the walls. They had receded, yes, but there was a tension in their absence, a poised readiness as if they were waiting for her to make a mistake. Abigail realized that stepping forward or backward, or even breathing too loudly, could provoke them into action. Her instincts screamed to flee, but the door was locked, and the tiny brass hearse had claimed her attention, binding her to its mysterious orbit. She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and placed the ring on the desk, noting that the hum had intensified, almost imperceptibly, like it was aware of the momentary distance. Then she noticed the papers scattered across the desk. Yellowed letters, journals, and what appeared to be sketches, most of them incomprehensible at first glance. As her eyes adjusted, she realized the sketches were of hearses, miniature, full-sized, and some even impossible, with elongated wheels and ornate carvings that seemed to defy both engineering and imagination. And among them were cryptic notes in meticulous handwriting, entries detailing the rituals of a secretive group, the people who lived in brass hearses. Abigail read aloud the first line, her voice trembling slightly. To live within the brass is to witness the passage of souls, to catalogue the unforgotten, and to endure eternally. A shiver ran down her spine. The words seemed to pulse in the air, almost vibrating with a life of their own. Each subsequent sentence revealed fragments of a history she couldn't have imagined. The brass hearses weren't merely symbolic. They were vessels, each one harboring consciousnesses, memories, or perhaps even souls of the departed. Their caretakers were people who had, in life, devoted themselves to death in some obsessive way, binding themselves to the metal and the rituals that sustained them. They didn't just tend to the dead. They had become a part of the liminal space between life and death. Abigail's mind raced. Was it possible she had stumbled into a community of immortals, a secret society preserved in the form of haunting, metallic vehicles? Her rational mind rejected it, yet the evidence was undeniable. The hearse on the desk seemed to quiver as if sensing her doubts. Compelled by a mixture of fear and curiosity, she reached for it again. The moment her fingers touched the metal, she felt the world shift beneath her, a vertigo that spun her vision and left her momentarily disoriented. When her vision cleared, she was no longer in the study. The room had transformed, or perhaps the house itself had reconfigured. She now stood in a long, narrow corridor, dimly lit by lanterns that emitted a greenish, unnatural glow. The walls were lined with brass hearses, each more ornate than the last, polished to a sheen that reflected faint, ghostly silhouettes within. The air smelled metallic, like blood mixed with wax, and there was a hum, low and constant, as if the very building was alive and breathing through the vehicles themselves. Abigail's heart pounded as she realized that she was no longer merely a visitor. She was in the domain of the people who lived in brass hearses, a space where the living and the spectral intersected. From the shadows emerged figures, indistinct at first, then gradually clearer. They were clothed in old-fashioned attire, top hats, long coats, gloves, their faces pale and eyes hollow yet perceptive. They didn't speak, only observed, and as they moved, their motions were fluid, almost unreal, like actors performing in a slow-motion play. One of them approached Abigail, taller than the rest, carrying a small lantern. Its light revealed the figure's skeletal hands and a face both human and unsettlingly decayed. "You have crossed into our world," the figure said, voice smooth and hollow, echoing strangely through the corridor. "And once crossed, one does not leave easily. The brass has claimed you. Abigail tried to retreat, but the corridor seemed endless, stretching farther than any logical space should. Behind her, she heard the whispering of the others, voices overlapping, a chorus of warnings and fragments. The ring, the choice, the witness. They were fragments, yet they struck at her consciousness, making her feel as though she were standing on the precipice of some terrifying revelation. The skeletal figure gestured to one of the hearses nearby. "It is customary," it said, "for newcomers to witness the catalog." The doors of the hearse opened, and inside were rows of miniature coffins, each labeled with a name. Abigail leaned in, recognizing some of the names as townspeople who had disappeared over the years. Her stomach churned at the realization. These were not just models, they were vessels, preserving some essence of the departed, a record of those who had been claimed by the brass. "You see," the figure continued, "the people who live in brass hearses do not simply care for the dead, they preserve them. Each hearse is a vessel of memory, a chronicle of those who are forgotten by the world outside, and the caretaker's duty is eternal." A sudden movement drew her attention to another hearse, slightly larger, adorned with intricate carvings that seemed almost alive. Its doors opened slowly, revealing an empty interior. The skeletal figure's voice echoed again, "And some are chosen to join the catalog, not by death, but by will. The ring you carry has marked you. You will decide whether you remain observer or become a participant." The gravity of the choice hit Abigail like a physical force. The ring pulsed in her hand, vibrating in tune with the rhythm of her heart. She realized that rejecting the domain entirely was impossible. She had already been claimed by curiosity and touch. Yet to join fully meant surrendering her life as she knew it, stepping beyond mortality into a role that was neither living nor dead. The whispers of the other caretakers rose again, a chant that enveloped her. "Witness, preserve, endure. The ride is eternal. The brass remembers." Abigail's mind whirled. She tried to reason, to find some rational explanation, but each attempt was met with dissonance. The walls shifted, the lantern light flickered, and the very floor seemed to hum in response to her indecision. She realized that logic had no purchase here. She was suspended in a reality governed by rules she could not comprehend, a world ruled by the unyielding devotion of those who had forsaken mortality to tend to their brass charges. In a moment of daring, she stepped closer to the larger hearse. The carving seemed to writhe subtly, reacting to her approach. She could hear faint whispers emanating from within the metal interior, fragments of conversation, laughter, and sorrow from unknown lives. Compelled, she reached out and touched the surface, and a vision exploded in her mind. A funeral in a fog-laden cemetery, a brass hearse gliding silently along cobblestone paths, a procession of shadows carrying the names of the dead. She stumbled back, overwhelmed, gasping, her knees almost giving out. The skeletal figure moved beside her, its presence a silent anchor in the storm of visions. "The catalog is not cruel," it said softly, almost kindly. "It is remembrance. The people who live in brass hearses do not harm the living, but the living who touch the brass must understand the gravity of memory. You have seen, you have chosen, now you must endure." Abigail's gaze fell to the ring, and she felt its hum synchronize fully with her pulse. It was no longer just a trinket. It was a tether, binding her essence to this strange, unending world. And as she looked up, she realized the corridor was no longer empty. Hundreds of hearses lined the walls, their brass gleaming, each a silent guardian of lives paused, preserved, or claimed. The weight of eternity pressed down on her, and she understood the truth of the skeletal figure's words. This was a responsibility, a burden, and a revelation all at once. The corridor stretched farther than she could see, each step an echo of the countless caretakers who had walked before her, and somewhere in the distant shadows she sensed the faint stirring of something else. Watchers, observers, those who had been chosen and had accepted the ride. The whispers continued, weaving a tapestry of the past and present, of life surrendered and memory preserved. Abigail felt herself drawn forward, not by fear but by a compelled curiosity, an inevitability that she could neither resist nor fully comprehend. Somewhere deep in her mind, a single thought emerged, simple and unyielding. She had crossed into a world she could never leave, and the brass hearses had claimed her, marking the beginning of a journey that would challenge every understanding of life, death, and memory she had ever known. Abigail walked cautiously down the corridor, her steps measured, echoing softly against the gleaming brass of the hearses that lined each side. The faint hum of metal against metal seemed almost alive, vibrating through the floorboards, through her shoes, even through the very air she breathed. Every hearse was unique, some small and delicate, others massive and ornate, their carvings intricate and almost impossibly detailed. Faces, hands, symbols, and animals twisted in bronze and gold, almost as if they were frozen mid-movement, captured by some masterful and impossible hand. Each one radiated a presence, a story, a memory, and Abigail felt it pressing against her senses like the weight of countless unspoken lives. The skeletal figure followed silently, a patient shadow in her periphery. Its lantern cast long, wavering light, highlighting the edges of the corridor and the subtle glimmer of the polished brass. Abigail tried to speak, to ask what was happening, to understand where she was, but the words caught in her throat. The world had shifted so completely that language seemed inadequate. The whispers, however, did not stop. They threaded themselves through the corridor, through the brass, through the air, sometimes urgent, sometimes mournful. Remember, witness, endure. She reached a turn in the hallway and froze. A hearse much larger than the others blocked the path ahead. Its surface was polished to a mirror-like shine, reflecting her wide-eyed face back at her. The carvings along its sides depicted scenes she could barely comprehend. Funeral processions in fog-choked cemeteries, shadowy figures carrying tiny coffins, faces turning in silent lament. And yet, there was something different about this one. It seemed almost alive, not just a vessel but a presence, breathing softly, pulsing in sync with the hum of the corridor itself. The skeletal figure spoke again, its voice soft, almost a whisper now. This is the grand hearse. It holds the knowledge of the Watchers, the chronicles of those who came before, and the decisions of those who remain. To touch it is to glimpse eternity, to understand what it means to preserve and endure. Abigail's curiosity overcame her fear. She reached out, fingertips grazing the polished brass. The moment contact was made, a shock of energy passed through her, sharp and electrifying, yet oddly comforting. Images burst into her mind with such force that she staggered back, eyes wide. She saw people, countless people, walking down streets in forgotten towns. Their lives paused, their memories catalogued, their laughter and sorrow preserved in metallic form. She saw herself, smaller, younger, touching objects in her past, moments she had long forgotten, all recorded and immortalized within the mysterious network of brass hearses. The vision shifted, darker now. She saw the consequences of neglect, of forgetting, of indifference. Souls abandoned, drifting, fading into nothingness. And then, the other caretakers appeared, hundreds of them, silent, watching, tending to the hearses, their skeletal hands moving with meticulous care, their hollow eyes focused, unwavering. They were neither cruel nor kind. They simply existed in devotion, eternal in their task. Abigail felt both awe and terror, understanding at last the weight of the domain she had entered. The skeletal figure stepped closer. You have glimpsed what many cannot. The choice is no longer abstract. To leave is to forget, to surrender your understanding, your witness. To remain is to become a part of the eternal cycle, to join the ranks of those who endure, who catalogue, who preserve. You have already begun this journey. Abigail's chest tightened. She had not agreed to anything, and yet the world around her seemed to assert that she had no choice. The whispers grew louder, more insistent, forming a chorus that pressed against her consciousness. Endure, catalogue, witness, become. She staggered forward, gripping the ring, its cold pulse grounding her even as her mind reeled. A sudden movement to her right caught her attention. Another figure emerged from the shadows, smaller, hunched, and wearing the tattered remains of a long coat. Its face was hidden beneath a hood, but Abigail could feel its gaze on her. Without speaking, it extended a skeletal hand toward one of the smaller hearses. A latch clicked open, revealing a miniature coffin. The figure lifted it gently, and Abigail saw the tiniest hands, the faintest features, preserved in exquisite detail. The whispers surged, forming a torrent of voices all at once, recounting names, dates, and deeds of those who had been claimed by the brass. Each one matters, the skeletal figure beside her said almost gently. Every memory, every action, every soul recorded. The people who live in brass hearses bear the responsibility of eternity. You have been chosen to witness and perhaps to join. Abigail swallowed hard. Her mind raced with questions. Could she refuse? Could she walk away and return to the world outside, or had she crossed an invisible threshold from which there was no return? The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly, rows of hearses and watchers extending farther than her eyes could see. The hum of the brass was hypnotic, almost seductive, drawing her forward, compelling her to move deeper into the labyrinthine hallways. Another figure appeared, gliding silently from the shadows. Unlike the others, this one was young, or at least appeared so. Its face was delicate, almost human, with eyes that shimmered like molten metal. It spoke in a voice that was soft, almost childlike. "Do you see them?" It gestured to the rows of hearses. All of them are stories. Stories of those who lived, those who died, those who never truly left. And now you are part of the story too. Abigail felt the ring pulse violently, a wave of energy that made her knees buckle. She gripped the desk nearby, a fragment of the old study that had somehow accompanied her into this corridor, and steadied herself. The voices swirled around her, whispering fragments of history and memory, the joys and sorrows of lives long past, the weight of decisions she could scarcely comprehend. The childlike figure reached out, touching the grand hearse, and the carvings along its sides shifted subtly, as if acknowledging her presence, as if reading her mind. "You cannot remain neutral," it said. "Curiosity brought you here, and curiosity will guide your next steps. Do you wish to witness only, or to become a caretaker, a preserver of memory?" Abigail's chest heaved. She had no words. Her mind could not articulate a response that would suffice. The pull of the brass was absolute, an invisible gravity tethering her to the corridor, to the whispers, to the endless procession of preserved lives. And yet, a spark of defiance ignited within her, small but determined. She had come here willingly, yes, drawn by curiosity and fear alike, but she would not be passive. If she were to endure, she would do so with intention, not as a victim of circumstance. The skeletal figure beside her inclined its head, as if acknowledging this nascent resolve. "Very well," it said. "Then witness, learn, and choose with clarity. The people who live in brass hearses do not act without purpose, and neither shall you, if you are to survive." Abigail stepped forward, her hand brushing another miniature hearse. The instant contact was made, she was flooded with another vision, this one closer, more personal. She saw herself, years ago, moments of small kindness and cruelty, of decisions that had impacted others in ways she had never realized. Each memory was vivid, tactile, alive. And then she saw them, faces she had passed on the street without notice, the unnoticed gestures of neighbors and strangers, the lives she had touched and the lives she had ignored. It was overwhelming, a tidal wave of insight and understanding that left her breathless. The corridor seemed to pulse in response, the brass vibrating with approval, or perhaps expectation. The skeletal figures shifted, watching, silent yet attentive, as if judging her ability to comprehend and endure the weight of knowledge. The childlike figure moved beside her again, placing a skeletal hand over hers on the hearse. "Do you understand?" it asked, voice gentle but insistent. "To preserve is to witness. To witness is to endure. To endure is to become part of the eternal chain. Your curiosity has led you here. Your choices will determine what you become. Abigail closed her eyes, gripping the ring tightly. She felt the hum resonate deep within her, the whispers threading through her consciousness, and she understood with a clarity that was almost terrifying. There was no returning to the ordinary world. She had crossed a threshold, and her path was now intertwined with the brass, the hearses, the watchers, and the catalogue of memory. The corridor stretched endlessly before her, lined with brass vessels that held the echoes of countless lives. The skeletal figures flanked her, patient, silent, expectant. And in the distance, the grand hearse gleamed, a beacon of knowledge, of eternity, of the inexorable weight of memory. Abigail took a deep breath, stepping forward, ready to witness, ready to endure, aware that with every step, she was moving closer to a destiny that would bind her to the people who lived in brass hearses forever. The corridor seemed to stretch endlessly before Abigail, each step forward echoing like a heartbeat through the silent, polished brass. She felt the weight of the ring heavy on her finger, its pulse synchronized with her own, guiding her deeper into the labyrinthine halls. Every hearse she passed glimmered with life, or at least something that mimicked it, faint vibrations that whispered of souls preserved, of memories catalogued, of lives forever etched in the metallic sheen. The skeletal figures flanked her silently, their hollow eyes watching every twitch, every hesitation, as if evaluating her worthiness. Abigail tried to remind herself that she was still alive, that she could turn back at any moment, but the corridor subtly shifted under her feet, subtly nudging her forward, making retreat impossible. A low, melodic chime echoed from somewhere deep within the passage, a sound that seemed both ancient and eternal. Abigail paused, straining to locate its source, but the corridor stretched beyond comprehension, and the sound appeared to emanate from every direction at once. The childlike figure that had guided her to the grand hearse stepped closer, pointing to a hearse slightly larger than the others. Its surface gleamed unnaturally, reflecting scenes that moved like living photographs, mourners gathering around graves, hands clasped in sorrow, eyes brimming with tears. Abigail felt a shiver trace the length of her spine. "This one is special," the figure whispered, voice like wind brushing across the tombstones of forgotten cemeteries. "It holds the memories that are too fragile, too fleeting, to be preserved by ordinary means. Only those chosen by the brass can perceive them." Abigail stepped forward, compelled, despite the trepidation tightening her chest. The polished surface of the hearse was unnervingly smooth, cold under her fingertips. As she pressed closer, she felt a vibration travel up her arm, a resonance that seemed to synchronize with her heartbeat, with the pulse of the ring, with the very hum of the corridor. And then she saw them. Faces, hundreds of them, shifting within the brass, expressions caught between joy and sorrow, fear and longing. They looked like reflections, but more than that, they were fragments of the lives Abigail had never witnessed, people whose existence had brushed against hers in passing, now captured eternally. The skeletal figure behind her nodded slowly. To witness fully is to understand. These are not just memories, they are lives, frozen in consequence and choice. Every action, every gesture, every word that mattered is held here, and those who preserve them are part of the same eternal chain. You have touched the brass. You have begun your journey. Abigail's knees felt weak. She staggered back, pressing herself against the wall, trying to grasp the enormity of what she was seeing. The whispers rose, overlapping, a chorus that pressed into her consciousness. Preserve, witness, endure, remember. The repetition became hypnotic, each word vibrating through her skull, echoing against the polished walls. She realized with dawning horror and awe that she was no longer just a visitor. She was part of the rhythm of this place, drawn into its pulse and pattern. The brass had claimed her attention, and the attention of the brass was absolute. "Do you understand?" the childlike figure asked, voice soft, almost coaxing. "The choice before you is simple, though not easy. To remain as witness is to accept responsibility. To join fully is to become eternal, to catalog, to endure, beyond the comprehension of the living. Each path has consequence. Each path has cost. The ring will guide you, but your will must decide. Abigail's fingers tightened around the ring. The pulse within it had grown stronger, almost urgent, as though responding to the tension in her mind. She felt the corridors around her hum, vibrating faintly, as if the brass itself were aware of her deliberation. Her rational mind sought escape, sought a return to the mundane safety of the world outside, yet some inexplicable compulsion held her in place, compelling her to explore further, to touch, to witness, to endure. Another figure appeared from the shadows, this one taller and more imposing. Its skeletal face was framed by a top hat and long, flowing robes, hands clasped behind its back. "Curiosity brought you here," it said, voice hollow, echoing in the elongated corridor. "Curiosity is the key that opens the door, but beware. Curiosity without understanding is perilous. The people who live in brass hearses are bound by duty, not whim. To enter their ranks is to surrender some part of yourself. Are you prepared?" Abigail swallowed hard, feeling the weight of the question press down on her. Her thoughts spun with the memories of her past, of mistakes and regrets, of choices unmade and words unspoken. The corridor stretched farther than she could see, lined with the gleaming brass of countless hearses, each one whispering fragments of life, of death, of memory preserved. The skeletal figure gestured to one of the smaller vehicles nearby. "Touch, witness, decide. The choice is not to leave or stay. It is how you engage with eternity." With trembling hands, Abigail reached out to the smaller hearse. The metal was cold, smooth, and yet vibrating faintly with life. The moment her fingers brushed the surface, visions exploded in her mind. Scenes from her childhood, long-forgotten moments of joy and sorrow, fleeting interactions with strangers whose faces she barely remembered. And then, as if guided by the whispers, she saw fragments of the future. Lives she had yet to touch, moments that might come and go unnoticed, all captured in the spectral tapestry of memory that the brass preserved. Her breath came in shallow gasps, and she staggered backward. The skeletal figures flanked her, silent and patient, their hollow eyes attentive. The whispers grew louder, overlapping into a singular chorus that resonated through her skull. Witness, endure, preserve, become. The words were no longer mere language. They were a vibration, a force, a guiding current that pulled at the very essence of her being. A sudden movement in the corridor drew her attention. One of the larger hearses had shifted slightly, its doors opening to reveal an interior bathed in a faint greenish light. Abigail could see rows of miniature coffins perfectly arranged, each one a repository of memory, of life paused in delicate suspension. She felt an almost magnetic pull toward the vehicle, as if the brass itself were summoning her. "You see," the taller figure said, stepping closer, "to engage with the brass is to accept the weight of remembrance. Every soul preserved here, every memory catalogued, is a responsibility. The people who live in brass hearses do not merely observe. They endure, they catalogue, they maintain the delicate balance between the living and the dead. Your curiosity has led you here, and your choice will determine your role." Abigail's mind reeled. Could she refuse? Could she step away, retreat to the safety of the ordinary world? The corridor itself seemed to shift in response to her hesitation, narrowing subtly, pressing her forward, compelling her to engage. The whispers intensified, threading through her consciousness, pressing into her very thoughts. Preserve. Witness. Endure. Remember. Join. Choose. Her eyes fell to the ring, and she felt its pulse synchronize fully with her heartbeat, a tether linking her to the brass, to the corridor, to the infinite chain of watchers and preserved souls. She realized, with a mixture of dread and awe, that there was no returning to ignorance. She had touched the brass, had glimpsed eternity, and the world outside was no longer entirely hers to reclaim. With a deep, steadying breath, Abigail stepped forward, placing her hand firmly on the polished surface of the larger hearse. A jolt of energy surged through her, sharp and exhilarating, and her vision shifted again. She saw herself walking endless corridors lined with brass, witnessing lives both past and future, cataloging memory after memory. The skeletal figures moved beside her, patient guides and silent judges. She understood now. The brass did not demand cruelty, only attention, endurance, and devotion. The childlike figure appeared once more, its molten metal eyes studying her. "You understand?" it said softly. "To witness fully is to endure. To endure is to become." The people who live in brass hearses do not ask for more than commitment, for understanding, for the acceptance of the eternal rhythm. You have touched, you have seen, and now you begin the process. Your choice is made. Abigail's breath caught. It was terrifying and beautiful all at once, the awareness that her life had been irrevocably altered, that she had entered a domain that demanded eternity, that her role had already begun. And yet, amid the fear, there was a spark of purpose, a thread of clarity. She would witness, she would endure, she would preserve, and in doing so, she would become part of something larger than herself, something infinite, unending, and unyielding. The corridor stretched on, lined with brass, memory, and shadow, and Abigail took her first steps fully aware of the path she had chosen. The whispers rose, a chorus that now seemed celebratory rather than menacing. Witness, endure, preserve, become eternal. And in that moment, she understood the gravity, the wonder, and the inevitability of her new existence among the people who lived in brass hearses. The corridor of brass hearses seemed to shift subtly with each step Abigail took, the polished metal reflecting fragments of herself in 1,000 distorted reflections. Her pulse raced in harmony with the faint hum that vibrated through the floor, a reminder that she was now bound, in some intangible way, to the rhythm of the corridor and the objects that lined it. The whispers of memory trailed behind her like smoke, sometimes urgent, sometimes mournful, always compelling. She felt herself being drawn deeper toward a part of the labyrinth that exuded an aura of authority, of finality, of observation, that was The skeletal figures flanked her, a silent guard yet not menacing. Their presence was a paradox, simultaneously comforting and unnerving. They moved in perfect synchrony with the whispers and the hum of the brass, their hollow eyes fixed upon her, measuring her comprehension, her resolve, her willingness to endure. Abigail felt the weight of their scrutiny, pressing against her skin and her very consciousness. Every movement was deliberate, every breath significant, as if the act of existing in this corridor was itself an initiation. Ahead, the corridor widened, revealing a massive hall, vaulted and infinite. Brass hearses of every imaginable size and design lined the walls, each one gleaming as if polished by hands unseen. Some floated slightly above the ground, suspended by an unseen force, while others rested on wheels that seemed too delicate to support their ornate frames. The air was thick with metallic scent, tinged with something indefinably ancient, a mixture of old metal, wax, and something more ephemeral, like the ghost of lost time. At the center of the hall stood the largest hearse Abigail had yet encountered. It was a magnificent construct, far larger than any carriage she had ever seen, with elaborate carvings that twisted and turned upon themselves in impossible ways. Faces emerged from the brass, mouths open in silent cries, hands reaching out as if beseeching attention, yet trapped within the metal's unyielding form. Its doors were slightly ajar, and a soft, greenish light spilled forth, illuminating the hall in an eerie, otherworldly glow. The skeletal figure beside her inclined its head toward the massive hearse. "The Grand Catalogue," it intoned. "It holds the entirety of what has been preserved, the culmination of memory, witness, and endurance. To touch it is to glimpse the full weight of existence, to understand the responsibilities of those who dwell among the brass." Abigail's breath caught. Her hand instinctively reached for the ring, and the moment she touched it, she felt the pulse intensify, a thrumming energy that resonated through her veins. The whispers swelled, a cacophony of voices, laughter, sorrow, anger, regret, and joy, blending into a singular, overwhelming force. Her vision blurred, and she staggered, nearly collapsing to the floor. The skeletal figure reached out, steadying her with a cold, unyielding hand. "Focus," it said softly. "The brass does not forgive inattention. To witness is to endure. To endure is to become." Abigail steadied herself, gripping the ring tightly. Her gaze fell upon the Grand Catalogue, and she felt an irresistible pull toward it. The carvings on the surface seemed to writhe, as if alive, responding to her presence, acknowledging her intent. With a mixture of fear and determination, she stepped closer, placing her hands on the polished brass. The moment contact was made, the world around her dissolved. Visions flooded her mind with dizzying intensity. She saw entire lives unfold in the blink of an eye. The birth of children, their first steps, the quiet grief of lost love, the small kindnesses and cruelties that defined human existence. She saw wars and famines, celebrations and funerals, moments of triumph and moments of despair, all captured, all preserved within the brass, catalogued with meticulous care. She understood, with a clarity that was both exhilarating and terrifying, that the people who lived in brass hearses were not merely caretakers. They were stewards of existence itself, guardians of memory against the erasure of time. The whispers became voices, and the voices became a chorus, surrounding her, enveloping her, demanding comprehension. Remember, witness, preserve, endure, become. Each word reverberated through her mind, shaping her thoughts, bending her perception. Abigail felt herself being drawn into the flow of memory, into the endless tapestry of preserved lives. She realized that to resist would be futile. The brass demanded engagement, demanded attention, demanded acceptance. A figure approached from the shadows, its skeletal frame draped in flowing robes, face partially obscured by a hood. Its voice was soft, yet carried an authority that resonated with the hall. "You have begun," it said. "The first step is always the hardest. To witness fully is to endure fully. To endure fully is to accept the weight of eternity. The choice is no longer whether to engage, it is how you will engage." Abigail nodded, though her throat felt tight and dry. She had understood this, yet the realization of its magnitude pressed down on her like the weight of the world. She took another step forward, pressing her hands more firmly against the brass. The surface pulsed beneath her palms, vibrating with life, with the memory of countless souls. She felt herself being pulled into the patterns of existence, becoming a node in the intricate web of preservation, a link in the eternal chain of the brass. Suddenly, the floor beneath her trembled. A low, resonant tone filled the hall, and Abigail felt the air itself shift, thickening around her. From the far end of the hall, a procession of skeletal figures emerged, each carrying a miniature hearse, their movements precise, deliberate, reverent. They advanced toward the Grand Catalogue in perfect synchrony, their presence amplifying the hum of the brass, the chorus of voices, the weight of history. The childlike figure from before stepped beside her once more, its molten metal eyes reflecting the glow of the Grand Catalogue. "Observe," it whispered. "Every movement matters. Every action preserves. The people who live in brass hearses are patient, meticulous, and eternal. To join them is to commit fully to this duty. Your path has begun, and every choice will ripple through the memory of countless lives." Abigail watched the procession, her mind grappling with the enormity of what she had entered. The whispers surged again, overlapping, forming a river of sound that flowed through her consciousness. Preserve, witness, endure, remember, become, eternal. Each word pressed against her thoughts, demanding recognition, demanding comprehension. She felt the pull of the ring intensify, its pulse synchronizing with the rhythm of the hall, with the flow of memory, with the cadence of eternity itself. With a deep breath, Abigail stepped forward, moving alongside the procession. Her hands hovered over the grand catalog, ready to engage, to witness, to preserve. The skeletal figures flanked her, their hollow eyes attentive, their presence both reassuring and imposing. She felt the energy of the hall envelop her, drawing her into its intricate patterns, its delicate lattice of preserved lives. The childlike figure spoke once more, voice gentle yet insistent. To endure is to understand. To understand is to act. The brass does not forgive hesitation, but it rewards commitment. You have touched, you have seen, and now you will begin to catalog. The memories are yours to witness, yours to preserve, and yours to honor. Abigail closed her eyes, feeling the pulse of the ring, the hum of the brass, the whispers of the memory all converge within her mind. She realized that she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return, that the world outside had become distant, irrelevant. She was now part of the eternal rhythm, a witness, a preserver, a participant in the grand cycle of memory and endurance. The grand catalog pulsed beneath her hands, a living repository of life and death, joy and sorrow, love and loss. Abigail felt herself being drawn deeper into its patterns, her consciousness expanding, touching fragments of countless existences, understanding with a clarity that was both terrifying and exhilarating. She knew, in that moment, that her journey had truly begun, that she had embraced the path of the people who lived in brass hearses, and that every step forward would bind her more deeply to the eternal cycle she had entered. Abigail's senses were overwhelmed as she moved deeper into the hall of the grand catalog. The air itself seemed alive, humming with the resonance of countless preserved lives, vibrating through her bones, syncing with the pulse of the ring on her finger. Every brass hearse along the walls glimmered with subtle movements, their carvings shifting and twisting as though acknowledging her presence. The skeletal figures flanking her walked silently, but she could feel their scrutiny, their unwavering observation, as though each step she took was a test of her resolve. The childlike figure floated closer, its molten metal eyes reflecting the greenish light emanating from the grand catalog. "The catalog is more than memory," it said softly. "It is responsibility, duty, and eternity. You have seen glimpses, but to engage fully, you must understand the weight of what is preserved here. Each life is a thread, and every thread contributes to the weave of the eternal tapestry." Abigail's mind reeled. Each thread, each life, each preserved memory felt infinitely delicate, yet infinitely important. She reached out to one of the smaller hearses lining the walls, pressing her fingers against its polished brass surface. Instantly, she was flooded with visions. A child laughing in a sun-dappled field, an old man's last breath whispered into the wind, fleeting interactions between strangers that had never been noted but now shimmered in brilliance. She staggered back, heart hammering, as the flow of memories threatened to overwhelm her. The skeletal figure behind her moved closer, voice steady and deliberate. To endure is to focus. To preserve is to witness. Every memory you encounter must be held with respect, with clarity. Do not flinch, do not falter, and do not let the weight crush your spirit. This is the path of the caretakers, the people who live in brass hearses. Abigail nodded, trying to steady her breathing. The whispers rose again, a chorus threading through her consciousness, urging her to move forward, to engage, to witness fully. Witness, preserve, endure, remember, become. The words repeated like a mantra, a rhythm that pulled her toward the center of the hall, where the grand catalog awaited. She understood now that retreat was impossible. She had crossed the threshold, and the brass had claimed her attention irrevocably. As she approached the grand catalog, the skeletal figures forming a semicircle around her, she noticed a faint shimmer along its surface. The carvings that adorned the massive brass hearse seemed to shift subtly, faces appearing and disappearing, hands reaching out, mouths opening in silent cries. Abigail reached out again, fingertips grazing the cold metal, and the pulse of the ring intensified, vibrating through her very being. The childlike figure spoke again, voice insistent. "You must touch fully. Immerse yourself in the catalog. Only then will you comprehend your role, your responsibility, your place among those who endure." Abigail's courage wavered for a moment, but she remembered the visions, the whispers, the undeniable pull of the brass. With deliberate intent, she pressed both hands firmly against the grand catalog. Immediately, her vision expanded beyond the physical hall, stretching into time and space. She saw lives she had never known, threads of existence interwoven with others, moments of joy, sorrow, and consequence flashing before her mind's eye. She felt the weight of these memories pressing against her consciousness, yet, instead of crushing her, the intensity sharpened her awareness, anchoring her to the flow of the eternal rhythm. The skeletal figures observed silently, their presence both reassuring and terrifying. Abigail realized that they were not guardians in the traditional sense. They were witnesses, guides, and judges. Every movement she made, every thought she harbored, was catalogued in turn, integrated into the network of memory that the brass maintained. She understood with dawning clarity that the people who lived in brass hearses were not simply caretakers. They were active participants in the preservation of existence, ensuring that no life, no matter how fleeting, was lost to oblivion. A sudden surge of movement caught her attention. From the shadows emerged another figure, taller, more imposing than the childlike guide, draped in flowing robes that shimmered with hints of metallic reflection. Its skeletal face was partially hidden beneath a hood, but its eyes gleamed with a strange light. It spoke, voice resonant and commanding. "You have begun, but the test is not complete. To endure fully, you must confront the entirety of memory, not just what is easy to witness, but what is painful, what is lost, what is forgotten." Abigail's stomach twisted. Painful memories, moments she had long buried, mistakes she had hoped to forget. These would all be laid bare before her, captured in the grand catalog. The whispers intensified, overlapping in a chaotic symphony. Witness, endure, preserve, remember, confront, accept. She felt the pulse of the ring synchronize with the crescendo of the whispers, a vibration that demanded acknowledgement, demanded engagement, demanded comprehension. With a deep breath, Abigail extended her hands further across the grand catalog. Instantly, she was engulfed in a torrent of vision and sound. She saw herself in moments of failure, of cruelty, of neglect. Every unkind word and every overlooked opportunity magnified in excruciating detail. Faces of people she had wronged, forgotten friends, and strangers alike filled her mind, their expressions frozen in time yet vivid with the resonance of consequence. Tears streamed down her face, but she did not flinch. The skeletal figures observed, patient and silent, as Abigail immersed herself in the pain, the regret, the lost potential she had carried unknowingly. She understood now that to preserve was not merely to catalog the pleasant or the noble, it was to witness fully, to endure the totality of existence, and to accept responsibility for the act of observation. The childlike figure reached out, resting a skeletal hand lightly on hers. "Do not fear," it said gently. "To endure is to understand. To understand is to act. You are becoming what the brass demands, a witness, a preserver, a participant in the eternal chain. Every memory, every life you encounter strengthens your connection, fortifying your role." Abigail nodded through her tears, feeling the intensity of the visions ebb slightly as she gained composure. She could feel herself integrating with the brass, her consciousness expanding to accommodate the network of memories, her senses attuned to the rhythm of the grand catalog. The hum of the hall seemed to resonate with her very being, synchronizing heartbeat with pulse, breath with vibration, thought with the chorus of whispers. The taller skeletal figure stepped closer, observing her with an unreadable expression. You are ready to witness not only the past but the present, the lives that continue to unfold even as we preserve them. The people who live in brass hearses are vigilant. They do not merely look back. They maintain the continuum, ensuring that memory and life are honored in tandem. You will learn, Abigail, that to endure fully is to participate fully. Abigail's hands remained pressed to the grand catalogue, her consciousness expanding, absorbing the vast tapestry of lives preserved within the brass. Faces shifted, moments intertwined, and she felt herself moving within the network, a part of its rhythm and its logic. The whispers continued, now less chaotic, forming a steady cadence that guided her thoughts and actions. Witness, preserve, endure, remember, participate, become. She understood finally that her journey was just beginning. The grand catalogue was not a destination, but a portal, a nexus through which she could engage with the entirety of existence, past and present. Each memory she witnessed, each life she preserved, each consequence she acknowledged would deepen her connection to the brass, strengthening her role as a caretaker, a witness, an eternal participant in the cycle of observation and preservation. With a deep, grounding breath, Abigail stepped fully into the rhythm of the hall, moving alongside the skeletal figures, touching the grand catalogue with intention and awareness. She embraced the weight of memory, the responsibility of observation, and the enduring rhythm of existence that the brass demanded. In that moment, she understood the truth of the people who lived in brass hearses. They were not bound by fear, nor driven by vanity. They were devoted entirely to the preservation of life's fragile, fleeting beauty. And as she moved, as she touched, as she witnessed, Abigail felt the pulse of the brass, the hum of the hall, the chorus of whispers, all converge into a singular, unending resonance. She had begun her journey fully, irrevocably, and the path ahead, infinite and eternal, stretched before her, shimmering with the weight of countless lives, the brilliance of memory, and the unyielding devotion of those who had come before. The hall of the grand catalogue seemed to pulse with life, the brass of the hearses glimmering as if aware of Abigail's presence. Each vessel contained an entire world, a tapestry of memory, emotion, and consequence captured in meticulous detail. She could feel the pulse of the ring on her finger synchronize with the vibrations of the hall, and with each beat, she felt herself drawn deeper into the intricate web of preservation. The skeletal figures flanked her as she moved, silent yet imposing, their hollow eyes reflecting the light of the grand catalogue and the countless smaller hearses arrayed along the walls. A soft, ethereal chime echoed through the hall, a sound both musical and mournful. Abigail's gaze followed the source, a small hearse hovering slightly above the floor, its polished brass shimmering with a faint green luminescence. It was unlike the others, delicate yet insistent, as though calling to her. She stepped closer, fingers trembling, and pressed against its surface. Instantly, she was overwhelmed by visions, fleeting moments of intimacy, laughter shared between strangers, small acts of kindness that had gone unnoticed in the living world but now glimmered with eternal significance. The whispers intensified, overlapping in a complex chorus. Witness, preserve, endure, remember, become, observe, act. The words flowed through her consciousness, guiding her thoughts, synchronizing her awareness with the rhythms of the hall. She realized that each touch, each observation, each acknowledgement was a responsibility, a commitment to honor the lives captured within the brass. To falter was not an option. The brass demanded engagement, demanded comprehension, demanded endurance. A new figure emerged from the shadows, tall and imposing, its skeletal frame draped in dark robes that shimmered faintly with metallic highlights. Its face was obscured beneath a hood, yet Abigail felt its gaze pierce her very being. "You have begun well," it intoned, voice resonant and commanding. "But to endure fully, you must confront not only the lives preserved here but the echoes of your own existence. To touch the brass is to accept the entirety of memory, both external and internal, both joyous and painful. Are you prepared? Abigail swallowed hard. Her thoughts spun, memories of her past surfacing unbidden, moments of regret, of anger, of cruelty, of neglect, and also moments of fleeting joy, connection, and love. Each memory pulsed with vivid intensity, amplified by the energy of the brass, intertwining with the preserved lives around her. She realized that the hall did not merely catalog history, it demanded comprehension, demanded empathy, demanded a merging of personal and collective experience. The childlike figure appeared beside her once more, its molten metal eyes reflecting the shimmering surfaces of the grand catalog. "Do not fear," it said softly. "To endure is to witness fully. To witness fully is to understand the interconnectedness of all lives. Each thread you encounter is part of a larger weave. Your role is to maintain the integrity of that weave, to honor each life, each choice, each consequence." Abigail's hands hovered over the brass of a medium-sized hearse, its surface engraved with scenes that shifted subtly as she watched. Faces appeared and disappeared, moments of joy and sorrow flickering like living photographs. She pressed her fingers against the metal, and a flood of memory surged into her mind. A family, celebrating a birthday, a lover's first kiss, a moment of reconciliation long delayed. The intensity was overwhelming, yet she clung to it, anchoring herself in the rhythm of the hall, in the pulse of the brass, in the cadence of eternity. The skeletal figure beside her inclined its head. "You are beginning to understand," it said. "The people who live in brass hearses do not simply preserve memory. They participate in it, they witness it, they honor it. And in doing so, they endure. Your journey has begun, but the path ahead is infinite, and the demands will only increase." Abigail nodded, a mixture of awe and trepidation coursing through her. She realized that the Grand Catalog was not merely a repository of the past, but a nexus that encompassed the present and the potential future. Every life she observed, every memory she preserved, every consequence she acknowledged expanded the network of the brass, intertwining her consciousness with the lives of others in ways she could scarcely comprehend. A low rumble echoed through the hall, resonating from the floor beneath her feet. Abigail felt the vibration in her chest, in her bones, in the ring itself. From the shadows, a procession of skeletal figures emerged, each carrying a miniature hearse. They moved with deliberate precision, their movements synchronized, almost ceremonial. The whispers intensified, layering over one another, forming a dense tapestry of sound that pressed against her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain. The childlike figure floated beside her, gesturing toward the procession. "Observe their movement," it instructed. "Every action has meaning. Every gesture preserves. The people who live in brass hearses act with purpose, with awareness, with devotion. To join them is to commit fully to this continuum, to participate actively in the preservation of memory and life." Abigail stepped forward, moving alongside the procession. Her hands hovered over the surface of the Grand Catalog, ready to engage fully. She could feel the energy of the hall envelop her, the pulse of the brass synchronizing with her heartbeat, the whispers threading through her mind, guiding her thoughts and actions. She understood that to resist would be futile. The hall demanded engagement, demanded understanding, demanded participation. As she pressed her hands firmly against the polished brass of the Grand Catalog, the world around her dissolved once more. She was engulfed in a torrent of vision and sound, her consciousness expanding to encompass the tapestry of lives preserved within the hall. She saw the full spectrum of human experience. Love, loss, joy, sorrow, cruelty, kindness, triumph, failure, all captured, all preserved, all woven into the eternal network maintained by the brass. The skeletal figures flanked her silently, observing her integration into the system of preservation. Abigail felt herself becoming part of the rhythm, the cadence, the pulse of the hall. Each memory she witnessed, each life she observed, each consequence she acknowledged strengthened her connection to the brass, deepening her understanding and expanding her capacity to endure. A subtle shift in the grand catalog caught her attention. One of the carvings along its surface had moved, revealing a hidden compartment within the brass. Abigail felt a pull toward it, a compelling force that urged her to investigate. With deliberate intent, she opened the compartment, revealing a miniature coffin, its interior illuminated by a soft green light. Inside rested a tiny figure, exquisitely detailed, preserved with remarkable care. The childlike figure spoke softly. "This is a life that requires delicate attention. Observe it fully, understand its significance, and integrate its memory into the continuum. To preserve is to witness is to endure, and to endure is to become part of the eternal rhythm." Abigail's fingers trembled as she touched the tiny coffin. Immediately, visions filled her mind. The life of the figure within, its joys, its sorrows, its fleeting moments of connection, its moments of despair and triumph. She understood that the act of observation was not passive. It was active, participatory, and transformative. Each memory she integrated became part of her, and she, in turn, became part of the eternal network of the brass. The whispers swelled once more, a chorus of voices threading through her consciousness. Witness, preserve, endure, integrate, participate, become eternal. Abigail felt the cadence of the hall, the rhythm of the brass, the pulse of the grand catalog, all converge within her mind. She was no longer merely a visitor. She was a participant, a preserver, a witness, a link in the infinite chain of memory and life. The skeletal figures stepped back slightly, their hollow eyes observing her with a mixture of expectation and approval. The childlike figure floated beside her, its metallic eyes reflecting the green light of the grand catalog. "You have begun your journey fully," it said softly. "The path ahead is endless, but you are prepared. Every memory you preserve, every life you witness, every consequence you acknowledge will strengthen your role. You are now among the people who live in brass hearses." Abigail exhaled slowly, her chest heaving with a mixture of awe and exhaustion. She felt the weight of the hall, the responsibilities she had embraced, and the infinite expanse of the path before her. Yet amid the enormity of it all, there was a sense of purpose, of belonging, of inevitability. She had crossed a threshold, entered a domain that demanded eternity and accepted the responsibilities of observation and preservation. As she moved deeper into the hall, touching hearses, observing memories, integrating lives, Abigail understood the truth of the people who lived in brass hearses. They were not bound by fear, nor driven by ambition. They were devoted entirely to the preservation of life's fragile, fleeting beauty. And in that devotion, she found her own purpose, her own place within the eternal cadence of the grand catalog. Abigail moved with a rhythm that was now instinctive, guided by the pulse of the brass and the unspoken cadence of the hall. The grand catalog loomed behind her, a silent sentinel of memory, while the corridors extending from it twisted and stretched into seemingly infinite dimensions. Every hearse she passed hummed with life, the brass resonating faintly beneath her fingertips as though acknowledging her presence, recognizing her commitment. The skeletal figures flanked her, walking in near-perfect synchrony, their hollow eyes attentive, their intent unwavering. The whispers in the hall swelled again, overlapping and intertwining, a living language of the preserved. Witness, preserve, endure, integrate, participate, become eternal, observe, sustain, guide. Each word pulsed in tandem with the vibration of her ring, the resonance pressing against her consciousness, drawing her deeper into the responsibilities she had embraced. Abigail felt the weight of countless lives, the unrelenting responsibility to observe, catalog, and preserve, but there was no fear now, only purpose, clarity, and an unshakable resolve. From the shadows of the corridor, another skeletal figure emerged, taller than the rest, its robes flowing as though stirred by invisible currents. Its face, partially obscured beneath a hood, revealed hollow eyes that glowed faintly with metallic light. "You are progressing," it said, voice deep and resonant, echoing through the vast hall. But to endure fully, you must engage with the subtleties of memory. Not only the grand moments of life, but the minutiae, the overlooked, the forgotten. Each detail contributes to the continuum. Each detail matters. Abigail nodded, her attention drawn to a smaller hearse set slightly apart from the others. Its surface shimmered with a faint golden hue, and intricate carvings twisted across its panels, depicting scenes so ordinary and mundane that they might have been dismissed by any casual observer. She approached, hand outstretched, and pressed her fingers to the brass. Instantly, her mind was flooded with visions. Quiet conversations at a kitchen table, the laughter of a child playing with a broken toy, a stranger offering a hand to help someone rise from the street. Each moment seemed trivial in isolation, yet together they formed a profound narrative, a web of interconnected actions and consequences that rippled outward, unseen by the living but preserved eternally in the brass. The skeletal figure beside her inclined its head slightly. These are the unnoticed moments, the threads that sustain the fabric of existence. To witness them fully is to understand the breadth of responsibility you bear. To endure is to honor every choice, every gesture, every fleeting instance. Do not underestimate their importance. Abigail swallowed, feeling the enormity of what she was seeing. Each memory, each moment, demanded her attention, demanded comprehension, demanded acknowledgement. The whispers intensified, layering over one another into a dense, intricate tapestry of sound. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, observe, participate, sustain, honor, become. She felt the pulse of her ring synchronize with the cadence of the brass, each beat reinforcing her awareness, her connection, her commitment. A low rumble vibrated through the floor beneath her feet, resonating through her bones and the palm of her hand resting on the golden hearse. The air thickened, carrying the faint scent of metal and something indefinably ancient, a mixture of memory and eternity. From the far end of the corridor, a procession of skeletal figures emerged, each carrying a miniature hearse, their movements precise, deliberate, almost ceremonial. The whispers surged again, a cacophony that pressed against her consciousness, urging her to focus, to integrate, to endure fully. The childlike figure floated beside her once more, its molten metal eyes reflecting the glow of the golden hearse. "Observe," it whispered. "Every gesture preserves, every movement communicates, every interaction sustains." The people who live in brass hearses do not merely catalog, they participate, they maintain, they honor. You are now among them, but your vigilance must never falter. The hall demands clarity, engagement, and unwavering focus. Abigail stepped forward, following the procession. Her hands hovered over the golden hearse, ready to engage fully. The whispers wove around her, guiding her movements, her attention, her understanding. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, become, and the words resonated through her consciousness, harmonizing with the vibrations of the brass, the rhythm of the hall, and the pulse of the grand catalogue. As she pressed her hands firmly against the surface, visions cascaded into her mind, both familiar and strange. She saw lives intertwined in unexpected ways, the consequences of a forgotten kindness echoing through generations, a fleeting act of cruelty rippling outward to shape destinies, moments of love and grief that intertwined subtly with countless others. She understood with clarity that the act of preservation was not passive. It was an active, participatory engagement, a commitment to witness and honor every detail, every life, every ripple of existence. A taller skeletal figure stepped forward from the shadows, its hooded gaze fixed upon her. "You are integrating," it said, "but to endure fully, you must confront the fractures, the ruptures, the lives interrupted and unresolved. These threads are fragile, unstable, yet they are essential to the integrity of the continuum. You must bear their weight without faltering, without judgment, without fear." Abigail took a deep breath and pressed more fully into the golden hearse, immersing herself in the complex weave of broken, interrupted, and unfinished lives. She saw tragedies both monumental and subtle. A child lost too soon, a love unfulfilled, a promise broken, a life quietly extinguished before its potential could flourish. Each fragment pressed against her consciousness, demanding recognition, demanding empathy, demanding endurance. She felt the weight of every life, the burden of every memory, and the responsibility to witness fully, to preserve without faltering. The childlike figure's voice threaded through her awareness, gentle but insistent. Do not shrink from it. To endure is not to judge, nor to falter, nor to retreat. It is to integrate, to sustain, to honor the continuum. You are becoming what the brass requires, a witness, a preserver, an active participant in the eternal rhythm. Each memory you embrace strengthens the network, fortifies the continuum, and anchors you to the path of eternity. Abigail's hands remained pressed to the golden hearse as she absorbed the lives within. She felt herself expanding, consciousness intertwining with the preserved memories, her awareness integrating with the pulse of the brass, the hum of the hall, and the cadence of the grand catalogue. Faces shifted, moments intertwined, and she sensed the delicate balance of existence maintained by the people who lived in brass hearses. Every detail mattered, every gesture mattered, every life mattered. From the shadows, more skeletal figures emerged, their movements synchronized, each carrying smaller hearses. They surrounded her in a protective, reverent circle, their hollow eyes observing, ensuring that her integration was complete, that her comprehension was precise, that her endurance was absolute. The whispers swelled to a harmonious chorus, threading through her mind and soul. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, become, eternal. Abigail's breath came in slow, deliberate waves. She understood now that she had entered a domain of absolute responsibility, where the act of witnessing was both sacred and demanding. She had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. Her life outside the hall had become irrelevant, her purpose now intertwined with the brass, the hearses, the preserved lives, and the endless continuum of memory. She was no longer merely an observer. She was a participant, a preserver, an essential node in the unbroken chain of existence and remembrance. With a final, steadying breath, Abigail stepped fully into the rhythm of the hall, pressing her palms firmly against the golden hearse. The pulse of the brass coursed through her, the whispers threaded through her consciousness, and she felt the full weight and beauty of the lives preserved around her. The skeletal figures nodded in unison, acknowledging her commitment, her comprehension, her endurance. Abigail understood fully, for the first time, the true purpose of the people who lived in brass hearses. They were guardians of memory, stewards of consequence, witnesses to the infinite tapestry of existence. And in embracing this role, in accepting the weight of preservation and observation, she had become part of the eternal cadence, a link in the chain that stretched beyond time, beyond death, beyond comprehension. The hall shimmered with infinite possibility, the brass gleaming with the reflection of countless lives. Abigail moved through it, touching hearses, observing memories, integrating lives, and sustaining the rhythm of the continuum. The whispers echoed through her mind, a steady, unyielding chorus. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, become, eternal. And as she moved, she realized with clarity, awe, and reverence that this was her place, her purpose, and her eternity. The deeper Abigail ventured into the corridors branching from the grand catalogue, the more the hall seemed to stretch into dimensions she could scarcely comprehend. Brass hearses lined the walls, some massive and imposing, others delicate and intricate, each resonating with a subtle pulse of preserved life. The air was thick with a metallic hum, interwoven with whispers that threaded through her consciousness, now forming a rhythm she could follow, a cadence that guided her every movement. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, become, eternal. The skeletal figures flanking her moved with measured precision, their hollow eyes ever watchful, their presence a constant reminder of the gravity of her responsibility. Abigail understood now that these were not mere sentinels. They were guides, embodiments of the principles she had been entrusted to uphold. Every step she took, every hearse she touched, every memory she acknowledged was observed, catalogued, and integrated into the intricate network maintained by the brass. A soft, crystalline chime echoed through the corridor, drawing her attention to a hearse unlike any she had encountered. It hovered slightly above the floor, its surface etched with impossible patterns, intricate and twisting in ways that seemed to defy geometry. Abigail approached cautiously, her hands trembling as she extended them toward the polished brass. The moment her fingertips made contact, visions flooded her mind with dazzling intensity. A family gathered around a hearth, a stranger offering comfort to one in pain, a fleeting moment of recognition between two people who would never meet again. Each memory shimmered with significance, its impact rippling outward, intertwining with countless others in the eternal tapestry of life. The whispers intensified, threading through her consciousness with greater clarity. Observe, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, honor, guide, become, eternal, comprehend, embody. Abigail felt the pulse of the ring synchronize with the vibration of the brass, each beat anchoring her to the hall, to the memories, to the rhythm of the grand catalog itself. She understood that to falter, even momentarily, was to risk losing the continuity she had been entrusted to uphold. From the shadows emerged a figure taller and more imposing than any Abigail had seen before. Its skeletal frame was draped in flowing robes that shimmered with hints of metallic light, and its hooded face revealed only hollow eyes glowing faintly in the dim illumination of the hall. "You are progressing well," it intoned, voice resonant and commanding. "But the path is not without challenge. To endure fully, you must confront the shadows as well as the light, the unfinished, the broken, the moments lost and overlooked. Each is vital to the integrity of the continuum." Abigail nodded, her gaze drawn to a hearse set apart, its brass surface darker, almost tarnished, etched with scenes that seemed incomplete, fractured, moments frozen in a state of unresolved tension. With deliberate intent, she pressed her hands against the metal. Immediately, she was engulfed in visions of lives disrupted, a lover separated by circumstance, a promise broken, a life cut short before its potential could flourish. Each fragment pressed against her consciousness, demanding attention, demanding acknowledgement, demanding endurance. The childlike figure floated beside her, its molten metal eyes reflecting the darkened brass. "Do not shy away," it whispered. "To endure is not to judge, but to witness fully. Every fracture, every rupture, every lost or incomplete life is essential to the continuum. You are now part of its rhythm. Your awareness must encompass all, without bias, without fear, without hesitation." Abigail's chest tightened as she absorbed the intensity of the memories. Pain, regret, sorrow, and longing surged through her, yet she did not flinch. The skeletal figures surrounding her observed silently, their presence steady and reassuring, guiding her through the torrent of emotion and consequence. She realized that endurance was not mere resilience. It was an active engagement with the totality of existence, a commitment to bear witness to every nuance, every detail, every thread in the vast tapestry of life. The whispers swelled again, forming a dense, intricate network of sound that pressed against her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal. Each word resonated with her very being, harmonizing with the pulse of the brass, the cadence of the hall, and the rhythm of her own heartbeat. She felt herself becoming one with the continuum, her awareness expanding to encompass both the observed and the observer, the preserved and the preserver. A low rumble vibrated through the floor, reverberating through her bones, and the air thickened, heavy with the metallic scent of brass and the intangible essence of memory. From the far end of the corridor, a procession of skeletal figures emerged, each carrying a miniature hearse. Their movements were deliberate, ceremonial, precise, and as they approached, the whispers formed a coherent melody, guiding Abigail's attention and reinforcing the rhythm she now inhabited. The childlike figure gestured toward the procession. "Observe their movement," it instructed. "Every gesture, every step, every rotation of their miniature hearses contributes to the preservation of memory. The people who live in brass hearses act with precision, with purpose, and with unwavering commitment. You are now among them. Your vigilance must mirror theirs." Abigail stepped forward, moving alongside the procession, hands hovering over the darkened hearse. The whispers threaded through her mind, guiding her actions and focus. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal. The words resonated in perfect harmony with the vibrations of the brass and the cadence of the grand catalog, anchoring her awareness to the continuum and to her responsibilities within it. As she pressed her hands fully against the darkened brass, visions cascaded into her mind. The lives within were incomplete, unresolved, chaotic, yet their significance was profound. She saw the consequences of neglect, of misunderstanding, of unfulfilled potential. And yet she also saw glimmers of connection, moments of resilience, acts of kindness that rippled outward unnoticed by the living but preserved eternally in the brass. She understood now that preservation required engagement, comprehension, and the courage to witness fully, without flinching, without judgment. The taller skeletal figure stepped closer, its hooded gaze fixed on her. "You are integrating," it intoned, "but true endurance demands more than observation. You must participate, comprehend, and guide the flow of memory. The fractures, the shadows, the incomplete threads, they require your awareness, your acknowledgement, your active preservation. Only then will the continuum remain intact. Only then will the hall's rhythm endure." Abigail took a deep, steadying breath, pressing her palms firmly against the darkened hearse. The pulse of the brass coursed through her, vibrating in sync with her heartbeat, threading through her consciousness, merging with her awareness. She absorbed the lives within, integrating the pain and the joy, the sorrow and the triumph, the lost and the preserved, all as part of a larger, intricate whole. The whispers harmonized with her thoughts, forming a guiding melody that reinforced her focus and anchored her presence within the continuum. From the shadows, more skeletal figures emerged, surrounding her in a protective, reverent circle. Their hollow eyes observed her integration, ensuring that her comprehension was complete, that her endurance was absolute, that her participation was thorough. The whispers swelled once more, echoing through her mind, threading through her consciousness, creating a steady, unbroken rhythm. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal. Abigail understood fully that she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. She was no longer merely a visitor. She was an integral part of the hall, the grand catalog, the continuum of preserved lives. Every memory she touched, every life she observed, every consequence she acknowledged strengthened her connection, deepened her understanding, and anchored her to the rhythm of the brass. As she moved, touching hearses, observing memories, integrating lives, Abigail felt a profound sense of purpose. The people who lived in brass hearses were not bound by fear or ambition. They were devoted entirely to the preservation of life's fragile, fleeting beauty. She had become one of them, a witness, a preserver, a participant in the eternal cadence, and in that commitment she found clarity, belonging, and an unshakable connection to the infinite tapestry of existence. The hall shimmered with potential, each brass surface gleaming with the reflections of countless lives. Abigail moved forward, hands firmly pressed to the darkened hearse, absorbing the memories and sustaining the continuum. The whispers echoed through her mind, forming a steady, unbroken cadence. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal. And in that cadence she understood that she had found her place, her purpose, and her eternity. Abigail continued her journey through the ever-expanding corridors of the grand catalog, the rhythmic pulse of the brass beneath her fingers guiding every movement. The hall's dimensions had grown impossibly vast, twisting and folding into infinite loops of polished surfaces, each hearse a repository of memory, each whisper a strand in the living chorus that resonated through her consciousness. The skeletal figures flanked her like silent sentinels, their hollow eyes reflecting the shimmer of brass, their presence both comforting and admonishing, a constant reminder of the weight she bore. A subtle vibration traveled along the floor, almost imperceptible at first, but growing steadily as Abigail moved deeper into the corridor. She followed it, guided by instinct, until she reached a hearse unlike any she had encountered before. It was enormous, adorned with carvings that shifted and moved as though alive, depicting entire lifetimes, the rise and fall of families, the fleeting interactions of strangers whose impact had never been acknowledged in the living world. Abigail's breath caught as she reached out to touch the polished brass, feeling a resonance that penetrated her bones and synchronized with the pulse of her ring. The whispers surged around her, a chorus of countless lives threading through her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify. Abigail closed her eyes, allowing the sound to anchor her, guiding her hands across the surface of the hearse. With each contact, the visions of lives past and present poured into her mind. A child discovering wonder for the first time, a soldier's final moments before falling in battle, a lover's secret note tucked into a hidden corner, unnoticed but eternally preserved. She staggered slightly under the weight of the memories, yet the skeletal figures remained beside her, steadying her with their silent presence. The childlike figure floated up, its molten metal eyes fixed on her. "You are moving beyond observation," it said softly. "You are integrating. But the next step requires more than awareness. It requires engagement. The people who live in brass hearses do not merely witness. They act, they guide, they influence the flow of memory, ensuring the continuum remains unbroken. Are you prepared for this responsibility?" Abigail swallowed hard, understanding the gravity of the task. She had already become a participant in the rhythm of the hall, a preserver of countless lives, but to guide and influence meant she would shape the network, intervening in subtle, crucial ways to maintain balance. "I am ready," she said, voice trembling yet resolute. The whispers intensified, now forming an intricate pattern of sound that wove around her consciousness like a living tapestry. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance. Abigail felt the vibrations of the brass resonate through her, merging with her heartbeat, her breath, her very being. She was no longer separate from the hall. She was part of its pulse, its rhythm, its eternal cadence. From the shadows, a new skeletal figure emerged, taller and more imposing than the others. Its robes shimmered with metallic highlights, and its hooded face revealed only glowing, hollow eyes. "You are advancing," it intoned, voice reverberating through the hall. "But guidance requires comprehension beyond the immediate. You must understand consequences, interconnections, and the subtle interplay of action and memory. Only then will you be able to sustain the continuum without faltering. Abigail nodded, her gaze drawn to a section of the massive hearse where the carvings twisted and shifted, depicting intricate relationships and unseen effects. She pressed her hands against the brass, and visions cascaded into her mind. A whisper of kindness influencing generations, a minor act of cruelty rippling outward to shape unforeseen destinies, the quiet endurance of unrecognized sacrifices that had profound impact. She understood now that the continuum was delicate, fragile, yet remarkably resilient, maintained through awareness, integration, and active participation. The childlike figure floated closer, voice gentle but firm. To guide is not to control, nor to dominate. It is to observe with clarity, to preserve with care, to influence with subtlety. The people who live in brass hearses maintain balance, honor memory, and ensure that the continuum remains intact. Your role is now to assume this responsibility, to integrate fully, and to act where necessary. Abigail exhaled, her palms pressed firmly against the shifting brass. She felt the vast expanse of memory spread out before her, intricate and interconnected. Every life, every choice, every consequence rippled outward, intertwining in ways she had not anticipated. She realized the enormity of her responsibility, to witness fully, to preserve diligently, to act wisely, to guide subtly, to sustain the eternal rhythm of the grand catalogue. A faint green light shimmered along the edges of the hearse, highlighting hidden carvings that had previously gone unnoticed. Abigail's attention was drawn to them, revealing small, delicate scenes of lives that had been overlooked, fragments of memory that might have been lost without her presence. She pressed her hands more firmly, absorbing the lives, integrating their stories into the continuum, ensuring their preservation and recognition. The whispers rose to a crescendo, a dense, interwoven chorus that enveloped her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate. Abigail felt the rhythm of the hall converge with her own heartbeat, merging past, present, and potential futures into a singular awareness. She was no longer merely a preserver, she was a guide, an anchor, a conduit through which memory and consequence flowed in perfect harmony. From the shadows, additional skeletal figures emerged, forming a semicircle around her. They carried miniature hearses, their movements precise and ceremonial. Abigail followed their lead, moving in synchrony, hands gliding over the brass, absorbing and integrating each memory, each fragment, each ripple of life. The hall resonated with their collective presence, the whispers forming a coherent melody that guided her through the process, reinforcing her understanding and her endurance. The towering skeletal figure stepped closer, its voice low and commanding. You have begun to guide, to sustain, to influence. Yet, comprehension must remain absolute. Observe not only the threads that are strong and visible, but also those that are fragile, hidden, or fractured. Every life matters. Every memory is essential. Every choice contributes to the fabric of eternity. Abigail's mind expanded as she engaged with the delicate, hidden threads of memory. She saw lives disrupted, moments overlooked, acts of kindness unacknowledged, suffering unnoticed. And yet she also saw resilience, endurance, subtle acts of compassion that rippled outward in unexpected ways. Each thread required her attention, her acknowledgement, her integration, and she met it without hesitation, without fear, without judgment. The childlike figure's voice threaded through her awareness once more, calm and insistent. You are becoming what the brass requires, a witness, a preserver, a guide, a participant. Every memory you touch, every life you honor, every consequence you integrate strengthens the continuum. You are part of the eternal rhythm, and your vigilance sustains it. Abigail's hands remained pressed to the massive hearse, absorbing the full spectrum of existence. She felt herself intertwined with the network of preserved lives, her consciousness a conduit for memory, consequence, and awareness. The skeletal figures observed silently, their presence steadying and guiding her integration. The whispers formed a continuous, unbroken cadence. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully. She understood with absolute clarity that her journey was ongoing, infinite, and irrevocable. The grand catalogue, the brass hearses, the preserved lives, they were no longer external to her. They were extensions of her own consciousness, her own responsibility, her own purpose. Every life she touched, every memory she integrated, every consequence she acknowledged was part of her, just as she was part of the continuum. As she moved forward, hands gliding over the polished brass, Abigail realized that she had crossed a threshold from which there was no return. She was no longer merely a visitor to the hall, she was a participant, a preserver, a guide, a witness, a living node in the eternal rhythm of the grand catalogue. The people who lived in brass hearses were not bound by fear, nor driven by ambition. They were devoted entirely to the preservation, understanding, and integration of life's fragile, fleeting beauty. The hall shimmered with the reflections of countless lives, each hearse a repository of memory, each whisper a strand of the living continuum. Abigail moved through it with deliberate purpose, hands pressed to the brass, absorbing, integrating, preserving, guiding. The whispers threaded through her mind, forming an endless, unbroken cadence. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, eternal. And in that cadence, she understood with unshakable clarity that this was her place, her purpose, and her eternity. She had become fully what the brass demanded, a witness, a preserver, a guide, and a participant in the endless, unyielding rhythm of the grand catalogue. Abigail moved deeper into the corridors of the grand catalogue, the endless expanse of brass hearses stretching before her like an eternal labyrinth of memory. Each step she took resonated through the polished floors, a soft metallic hum echoing in tandem with the pulse of the ring on her finger. The skeletal figures flanking her were constant, unyielding, yet their presence no longer felt oppressive. It was a framework of guidance, a structure that anchored her as she navigated the vast and intricate continuum of lives preserved within the brass. The whispers wove around her consciousness like threads of silver and gold, each voice distinct yet inseparable from the whole. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, eternal. Abigail had come to recognize the cadence as both instruction and sustenance, a living rhythm that tethered her awareness to the continuum of life, both past and present. Ahead, a hearse hovered slightly above the floor, unlike the others she had encountered. Its surface shimmered with a faint iridescence, constantly shifting in hue, reflecting moments that seemed suspended in perpetual flux. Abigail approached cautiously, hands raised in reverence. As soon as her fingers brushed the brass, a surge of memory cascaded into her consciousness. Fleeting moments, overlapping and intertwining, lives connected in ways she could scarcely comprehend. She saw families torn apart by misfortune, friendships forged and broken, lovers parting and reuniting across the expanse of time. Each moment pressed against her mind, demanding recognition, understanding, and integration. The childlike figure appeared beside her, floating just above the floor, its molten metal eyes reflecting the iridescent surface. "You are advancing," it said softly. "But the continuum requires more than observation. To endure fully, you must comprehend the unseen connections, the subtle interactions that ripple outward from each life. You must integrate not only the vivid and apparent, but the hidden and fragile, the threads that almost slipped away." Abigail nodded, pressing more firmly against the brass. Instantly, she was engulfed in a flood of seemingly minor moments, an unspoken apology that prevented a lifetime of resentment, a fleeting glance that altered the course of a stranger's destiny, an act of kindness that echoed silently across generations. Each tiny thread seemed insignificant alone, yet together they formed a lattice of consequence and meaning that shaped the continuum. She understood that preservation was not merely about observation, but about acknowledging, understanding, and sustaining the intricate network of cause and effect. A skeletal figure emerged from the shadows, taller than the rest, its robes glinting with metallic highlights, its hollow eyes fixed upon her with a gaze that seemed to pierce her very being. "You are integrating, yet guidance requires clarity," it intoned. "You must see beyond the immediate, beyond the obvious. The people who live in brass hearses maintain balance not through power, but through insight, attention, and the capacity to sustain even the most fragile threads. Are you prepared to bear this responsibility?" Abigail swallowed hard, her hands trembling as the memories pressed against her consciousness with relentless intensity. "I am," she whispered. Her voice felt small against the magnitude of the task, yet it carried conviction. She understood that to falter was to risk the integrity of the continuum, to fail in her duty as both witness and preserver. The whispers swelled around her, overlapping in a dense, intricate pattern. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize. The words threaded through her consciousness, harmonizing with the pulse of the brass, the rhythm of the hall, and the cadence of her own awareness. Abigail felt herself becoming one with the continuum, her mind expanding to accommodate the vast complexity of life and consequence preserved within the grand catalog. She turned her attention to another hearse, smaller yet equally radiant, its brass surface engraved with delicate, twisting patterns. She pressed her fingers to the metal and was immediately enveloped in the life of a solitary woman, a life of quiet endurance, subtle triumphs, and unseen suffering. Abigail observed her choices, her failures, her fleeting moments of happiness, and realized that the woman's existence, though overlooked by the living, contributed significantly to the continuum. Each decision, each emotion, each ripple of action was preserved eternally within the brass, waiting for recognition, understanding, and integration. The childlike figure floated closer, voice gentle but insistent. "Observe not only the grand moments, but the subtleties. These are the threads that bind the continuum, fragile yet essential. To endure is to witness them fully, to integrate them into your awareness, and to honor their significance. The people who live in brass hearses act with precision and purpose, maintaining the rhythm of existence. You must do the same." Abigail closed her eyes, allowing herself to be fully immersed in the life before her. She felt the cadence of the woman's existence merge with the pulse of the brass, the whispers threading through her consciousness, creating a tapestry of understanding, empathy, and recognition. Every minor act, every overlooked detail, every subtle consequence was a note in the symphony of life, and she was both observer and participant, guiding and sustaining the rhythm. From the shadows, a procession of skeletal figures emerged, each carrying a miniature hearse. They moved with ceremonial precision, their presence a reminder of the responsibility Abigail had assumed. She joined them, hands hovering over the brass, moving in synchrony, absorbing and integrating every memory, every fragment, every ripple of consequence. The whispers formed a continuous, unbroken melody, guiding her through the process, reinforcing her understanding and endurance. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize. Abigail felt herself expanding, consciousness intertwining with the lives preserved within the grand catalog. Faces shifted, moments overlapped, threads of cause and effect interwove in intricate patterns. She realized with clarity that the act of preservation required engagement, not passivity, comprehension, not mere observation, and endurance, not fleeting attention. The people who lived in brass hearses did not simply maintain memory. They sustained the continuum, honoring every life, every choice, every consequence. The towering skeletal figure stepped closer, voice deep and resonant. You have begun to guide, to sustain, to integrate. Yet, comprehension must be absolute. Observe the threads that are hidden, fragile, or incomplete. Every life matters. Every memory is essential. Every action contributes to the fabric of eternity. Abigail's hands remained pressed firmly against the brass as she absorbed the lives within, integrating the joy, the sorrow, the triumph, and the failure into a coherent understanding of the continuum. She felt herself entwined with the network of preserved lives, a conduit through which memory, consequence, and awareness flowed in perfect harmony. The skeletal figures watched silently, ensuring her integration was complete, that her endurance was unwavering, and that her participation was thorough. The childlike figure's voice threaded through her awareness, calm and guiding. You are becoming what the brass requires, a witness, a preserver, a guide, a participant. Every life you touch, every memory you honor, every consequence you integrate strengthens the continuum. You are part of the eternal rhythm, and your vigilance sustains it. Abigail exhaled slowly, her body and mind aligned with the pulse of the grand catalog. She understood fully that her journey was ongoing, infinite, and irrevocable. She was no longer merely a visitor. She was an integral part of the hall, the brass hearses, the continuum of preserved lives. Each touch, each observation, each integration reinforced the eternal cadence, linking her irrevocably to the living tapestry of memory and consequence. The hall shimmered with the reflections of countless lives, the brass gleaming with the light of uncountable stories. Abigail moved deliberately, touching hearses, absorbing memories, integrating lives, and sustaining the rhythm. The whispers formed a continuous, unbroken cadence. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain. And in that cadence, she understood with absolute certainty that she had found her place, her purpose, and her eternity. She was fully what the brass required, a witness, a preserver, a guide, a participant in the endless, unyielding rhythm of the grand catalog. The people who lived in brass hearses were no longer a distant ideal. They were her reality, and she had become one of them, bound to the eternal cadence she had embraced. Abigail's steps echoed softly against the polished brass floor, the sound harmonizing with the steady pulse of the ring on her finger and the resonant hum of the hall. The corridors of the grand catalog stretched endlessly in all directions, a labyrinth of preserved memories, each hearse a repository of life, each whisper a thread in the ever-expanding tapestry. The skeletal figures flanking her moved in perfect synchrony, their hollow eyes unwavering, their presence a constant reminder of the gravity and sanctity of her responsibilities. The whispers surrounded her, a living chorus of countless lives intertwined, each voice distinct yet inseparable from the whole. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain. Abigail had learned to listen not just with her ears but with her consciousness, allowing the cadence to guide her through the labyrinthine hallways, through the endless sequences of memory and consequence. Ahead, a hearse hovered slightly above the floor, unlike any she had encountered before. Its brass surface shimmered with a faint, undulating light, and the intricate carving seemed to shift subtly as she approached, forming patterns that appeared both familiar and incomprehensibly complex. Abigail extended her hands cautiously, fingers trembling as they made contact with the warm, vibrating metal. Instantly, visions flooded her mind. Lives intersecting, moments overlapping, choices rippling outward in infinite directions. She saw children growing up in fleeting moments of happiness, lovers separated and reunited across time, acts of kindness that quietly transformed destinies. Each memory pressed insistently against her awareness, demanding recognition, understanding, and integration. The childlike figure appeared beside her, floating with its molten metal eyes fixed on hers. "You are progressing," it whispered, voice soft yet insistent. "But observation alone is insufficient. You must understand the interactions, the subtleties, the unseen effects that each life produces. The continuum depends upon your engagement, your comprehension, and your vigilance. Are you prepared to take the next step?" Abigail nodded, heart pounding, her palms pressing more firmly against the brass. The hall responded, resonating in harmony with her touch, each vibration threading through her consciousness and merging seamlessly with the cadence of the whispers. She realized the magnitude of the task. To preserve memory was to engage fully, to integrate without judgment, to witness without faltering. She understood that her responsibility extended beyond simple observation. It required comprehension, empathy, and active participation. From the shadows, a skeletal figure emerged, taller and more imposing than the others, its robes glimmering with metallic highlights. Its hollow eyes bore into hers, the faint glow reflecting off the brass surfaces. "You are advancing," it intoned, voice echoing through the corridors. "But guidance is not given lightly. To endure fully, you must observe the subtle threads, the fragile moments, the hidden and incomplete fragments of life. Every choice, every interaction, every ripple of consequence contributes to the integrity of the continuum." Abigail inhaled deeply, letting the rhythm of the hall and the pulse of the brass anchor her. She pressed her hands fully against the hovering hearse, immersing herself in the interconnected web of lives preserved within. She witnessed ordinary moments rendered extraordinary by consequence, a whispered word that saved a life, a fleeting smile that changed the trajectory of a stranger's existence, a quiet act of courage unnoticed by the world yet preserved eternally in the brass. She realized that each moment, no matter how small, had the power to echo endlessly, and it was her duty to recognize, honor, and integrate each one. The whispers rose in a dense, intricate chorus threading through her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide. Abigail felt the cadence settle into her mind, harmonizing with her heartbeat and breath, aligning her awareness with the pulse of the hall. She was no longer a separate entity observing the continuum. She was entwined with it, an active participant, a guide, a preserver. A procession of skeletal figures emerged from the shadows, each carrying a miniature hearse, moving with ceremonial precision. Abigail followed their lead, moving in synchrony, hands gliding over the brass, absorbing and integrating each memory, each fragment, each ripple of consequence. The whispers formed a continuous, unbroken melody, guiding her through the process, reinforcing her understanding and her endurance. She felt herself becoming one with the cadence of the grand catalogue, her consciousness expanding to encompass not only the lives she touched, but the intricate connections between them. The towering skeletal figure stepped closer, voice low and commanding. "You have begun to guide, to sustain, to integrate. Yet comprehension must be absolute. Observe not only the vibrant threads, but the fragile, the hidden, the incomplete. Every life matters. Every memory is essential. Every act contributes to the fabric of eternity." Abigail closed her eyes, letting the entirety of the continuum wash over her consciousness. She felt the interweaving of lives, the delicate lattice of cause and effect, the endless interplay of action, consequence, and memory. The weight of understanding was immense, yet she did not flinch. She knew that her role was vital, that her awareness and engagement sustained the balance of countless lives and consequences. The childlike figure's voice threaded through her awareness once more, soft but resolute. "You are becoming what the brass requires: a witness, a preserver, a guide, a participant. Every life you touch, every memory you honor, every consequence you integrate strengthens the continuum. You are part of the eternal rhythm, and your vigilance sustains it." Abigail's palms remained pressed firmly against the hovering hearse as she absorbed the full spectrum of existence within. Joy, sorrow, triumph, failure, love, loss, all interwove into a single, intricate tapestry that pulsed with the rhythm of eternity. She felt herself entwined with the network of preserved lives, a living conduit through which memory, consequence, and awareness flowed in harmony. The skeletal figures observed silently, ensuring her integration was complete, that her endurance remained unwavering, and that her participation was thorough. The whispers surged, forming a dense, interwoven melody that enveloped her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate. Abigail felt the rhythm of the hall converge with her own awareness, merging past, present, and potential futures into a singular, coherent understanding of the continuum. She was no longer merely an observer. She was an integral part of the hall, of the grand catalogue, of the eternal tapestry of preserved lives. She moved through the corridor deliberately, hands gliding over brass, absorbing memories, integrating lives, sustaining the rhythm. Faces shifted, moments overlapped, threads of consequence interwove in intricate patterns. She realized that the act of preservation required vigilance, empathy, and understanding. The people who lived in brass hearses were not passive custodians. They were active participants, guides, witnesses, and preservers of the continuum. The hall shimmered with reflections of countless lives, each hearse a repository of memory, each whisper a strand in the living chorus of eternity. Abigail moved through it with purpose, pressing her hands firmly against brass, integrating, preserving, guiding. The whispers formed an unbroken cadence. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal. And in that cadence she understood with absolute clarity that she had found her place, her purpose, and her eternity. She had become fully what the brass demanded: a witness, a preserver, a guide, and a participant in the endless, unyielding rhythm of the grand catalogue. The people who lived in brass hearses were no longer distant ideals. They were her reality, and she had become one of them, bound irrevocably to the eternal cadence she had embraced. Abigail's awareness had stretched beyond the confines of her own body. She moved through the grand catalogue no longer merely as a visitor or a novice preserver, but as a fully integrated participant in the rhythm of the hall. The brass hearses surrounding her vibrated with latent energy, each containing entire lifetimes, each whispering fragments of memory that intertwined with her consciousness. She could feel the pulse of every preserved life, subtle yet insistent, merging with her own heartbeat, forming a composite awareness that transcended individuality. The skeletal figures flanking her were constant but no longer simply guides. They had become conduits, amplifying the rhythm of the continuum, directing her attention where it was most needed. Their hollow eyes shimmered faintly with metallic light, reflecting both the immensity of the preserved lives and the delicate threads connecting them. Each figure moved with purpose, a silent partner in the sacred dance of memory preservation. Ahead, a series of hearses formed a deliberate pattern, each slightly elevated above the floor and spaced with meticulous precision. Abigail recognized immediately that this was a locus of particularly significant memory, lives whose choices had interwoven in extraordinary ways, whose consequences had rippled outward to shape countless other lives. She approached the first hearse and pressed her palms against its brass surface, feeling the vibrational resonance align with her pulse. Immediately, she was inundated with visions. Lovers meeting in impossible circumstances, strangers whose brief interactions had sparked generations of outcomes, small acts of mercy that altered destinies in subtle yet profound ways. The childlike figure appeared beside her, molten metal eyes reflecting the brilliance of the brass. "This is the confluence," it said softly. "Here, threads intersect, overlap, and intertwine in ways both obvious and hidden. To preserve the continuum here requires more than endurance. It demands understanding, foresight, and the capacity to integrate without bias. Are you prepared?" Abigail nodded, steadying her hands against the vibrating brass. She felt the flood of memory surge into her consciousness, the complexity nearly overwhelming, yet she did not falter. She allowed herself to become part of the flow, each life she touched weaving seamlessly into her awareness, each ripple of consequence understood and integrated. The whispers intensified, forming an intricate melody: witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align. Abigail moved deliberately to the next hearse, following the rhythm of the continuum, hands gliding over polished brass. The skeletal figures maintained their positions, observing, guiding, ensuring that her integration was complete. As she absorbed the next set of lives, she saw both triumphs and failures, joys and sorrows, unfulfilled promises and quiet acts of heroism. Each memory had its significance, and she felt herself integrating them with precision, preserving their impact while understanding the delicate interplay of cause and effect. The childlike figure's voice threaded through her awareness again. Integration here is crucial. These threads are fragile. Their loss or misinterpretation could destabilize the continuum. You must balance comprehension with endurance, awareness with subtle guidance. Remember, the people who live in brass hearses sustain the rhythm not through dominion, but through insight and vigilance. You are now among them. Abigail felt herself expanding further, consciousness extending to encompass the entirety of the confluence. She sensed subtle ripples propagating outward from each life she touched, affecting those around them, influencing outcomes in ways invisible to the living, Her responsibility had become immense, yet the skeletal figures provided silent support, steadying her awareness as she navigated the infinite web of interconnections. From the shadows emerged a taller skeletal figure, its robes reflecting light in shifting patterns, hooded face revealing glowing hollow eyes. "You have integrated the individual threads," it said, voice reverberating through the hall. "But now you must perceive the lattice, the structure that binds these lives into a coherent continuum. Observation alone is not sufficient. Comprehension requires active engagement, understanding the interdependence of consequence and choice." Abigail exhaled slowly, placing her palms firmly against the final hearse in the confluence. Instantly, she was engulfed in the entirety of the interconnected lives, a web of causality so complex it almost defied comprehension. Yet she did not hesitate. The whispers formed a guiding melody, threading through her consciousness, anchoring her, reinforcing her awareness, allowing her to perceive the intricate lattice and integrate every thread without faltering. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully. She felt the continuum settle around her, the vibrational resonance of the brass aligning perfectly with her consciousness. She was no longer separate from the hall. She had become a node within the network, a conduit through which memory, consequence, and awareness flowed in harmonious perpetuity. The skeletal figures maintained their positions, silent yet vigilant, observing her integration, ensuring that the rhythm of the confluence remained unbroken. Abigail's mind expanded further, encompassing even the most subtle threads, the lives almost forgotten, the moments barely perceived, the consequences overlooked. She integrated them with care, preserving their significance, honoring their impact, sustaining the rhythm. The whispers threaded through her awareness with increasing clarity. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance. The hall shimmered around her with the reflections of countless lives, brass surfaces glowing faintly as if in acknowledgement of her integration. Abigail moved deliberately, hands pressing over polished surfaces, absorbing memories, guiding consequences, sustaining the rhythm of the continuum. Faces shifted in her consciousness, moments overlapped, threads of cause and effect interwove with increasing complexity. She understood fully that preservation required not only endurance, but foresight, comprehension, and subtle influence. The childlike figure floated beside her once more, voice gentle yet firm. "You are now what the brass requires. Witness, preserver, guide, and participant. Every memory you honor, every life you integrate, every consequence you sustain strengthens the continuum. You are part of the eternal rhythm, your vigilance maintaining the flow of life and memory." Abigail exhaled deeply, the weight of her awareness both immense and anchoring. She moved through the corridor with purpose, hands gliding over brass, integrating, preserving, guiding. The whispers wove an unbroken cadence around her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose. In that cadence, Abigail understood with absolute clarity that she had found her place, her purpose, and her eternity. She was no longer merely a visitor or novice preserver. She had become one with the continuum, a participant in the eternal, unyielding rhythm of the grand catalog. The people who lived in brass hearses were not distant ideals. They were her reality, and she had become one of them, inseparably bound to the eternal cadence she now fully embraced. Abigail moved with deliberate precision through the ever-expanding corridors of the grand catalog, the rhythmic pulse of brass beneath her fingers now inseparable from the cadence of her own heartbeat. Each step resonated with a harmonic vibration. Each touch amplified the whispers that flowed ceaselessly through her consciousness. The skeletal figures flanking her were no longer guides in the traditional sense. They had become extensions of the continuum itself, embodiments of vigilance and stability, reinforcing her awareness and anchoring her integration. The whispers threaded in a dense, interwoven tapestry. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose, eternal understanding. Abigail listened not merely with her ears, but with her mind and soul, allowing the infinite layers of meaning to thread through her consciousness. Each whisper was a pulse of life, a vibration of consequence, a note in the infinite symphony of existence preserved within the brass hearses. Ahead lay a cluster of massive hearses, larger than any she had previously encountered, hovering slightly above the floor, their polished surfaces reflecting countless fragments of memory. Abigail sensed immediately that this was the apex of the continuum, the locus where the most intricate and consequential threads of life intersected. The skeletal figures remained behind her, silent yet unwavering, as if giving her the space and authority to assume full stewardship over this confluence of existence. She approached the first hearse, extending her hands, feeling the warm, resonant metal beneath her fingertips. Instantly, the continuum expanded around her, cascading through her consciousness in waves of interconnected lives. She saw entire generations of families, the subtle ripples of choices made decades or centuries apart, threads that intersected unexpectedly, weaving complex patterns of cause and effect. The childlike figure floated beside her, eyes molten and luminous, reflecting the iridescent brilliance of the brass. "This is the heart of the continuum," it whispered. "Here, threads converge in patterns that define not only individual lives but the flow of memory itself. To preserve and guide at this nexus requires absolute comprehension, vigilance, and integration. Are you prepared to assume full responsibility?" Abigail's palms pressed firmly against the brass. She felt the flood of memory surge through her, threatening to overwhelm her senses, yet she remained resolute. She allowed herself to become fully entwined with the continuum, each thread, each life, each consequence merging seamlessly with her awareness. The whispers intensified, forming a complex and unbroken cadence that threaded through her very being. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose, eternal understanding, eternal stewardship. The skeletal figures emerged from the shadows, forming a protective semicircle around her. Each carried a miniature hearse, their movements deliberate, ceremonial, precise. Abigail followed their lead, moving in perfect synchrony, hands gliding over the brass, integrating lives, guiding consequences, sustaining the rhythm of the continuum. The hall itself seemed to pulse and breathe, responding to her touch, reflecting the meticulous balance she maintained within her consciousness. From the corner of her awareness, a taller skeletal figure approached, its hooded face revealing glowing hollow eyes. Its voice reverberated through the hall with an authority that demanded attention. You have integrated, guided, preserved, and comprehended. Yet the apex requires more than endurance. Here, you must act with subtlety, insight, and precision. Threads converge in complex patterns, and each choice you make, each touch you give, influences the continuum in ways profound and lasting. Your role is no longer simply preservation, it is stewardship. Abigail exhaled slowly, feeling the immense weight of her responsibility, yet a clarity she had never known before settled over her. She pressed her hands fully against the apex hearse, immersing herself completely in the web of interconnected lives. Waves of memory surged, joy and sorrow, triumph and failure, love and loss intertwining in intricate patterns. She felt the subtle vibrations of consequence, threads connecting distant lives, actions spanning decades, decisions influencing outcomes she could barely comprehend. And yet, guided by the whispers and the rhythm of the hall, she integrated each one, preserving balance and sustaining continuity. The childlike figure floated closer, voice soft but insistent. Stewardship here requires not only comprehension but active engagement. The continuum is delicate. Threads that fray or break risk instability. Your responsibility is to maintain equilibrium, to honor all lives, to integrate consequences, to preserve the harmony of memory. Are you prepared to bear this fully? Abigail nodded, a calm determination settling over her as the hall pulsed in resonance with her acceptance. She had become fully entwined with the grand catalog, her consciousness a living node within the network of preserved lives. Each memory, each thread, each consequence flowed through her awareness, guided by her touch, integrated with her understanding, sustained by her vigilance. She understood that stewardship was not dominion, nor was it control. It was awareness, empathy, precision, and constant engagement with the infinite web of existence. The whispers intensified, forming an intricate symphony that threaded through her consciousness, merging past, present, and potential futures into a coherent, living understanding of the continuum. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully. Eternal, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose, eternal understanding, eternal stewardship, eternal unity. Abigail moved deliberately from one apex hearse to another, pressing her hands firmly, integrating lives, understanding subtle interactions, guiding consequences. The skeletal figures observed silently, ensuring her integration remained precise, her endurance unwavering, her stewardship complete. She was no longer merely a preserver. She was an active participant, a guide, a steward, and a witness, fully enmeshed in the living continuum of the grand catalog. She paused at the final apex hearse, letting the enormity of the continuum wash over her. The sheer complexity of intersecting lives, choices, and consequences might have overwhelmed another, yet Abigail's mind had expanded to encompass it fully. She understood now that every life mattered. Every memory was essential, every consequence interwoven, each act of preservation a thread maintaining the harmony of eternity. The whispers formed a continuous cadence that merged seamlessly with her heartbeat. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose, eternal understanding, eternal stewardship, eternal unity, eternal completion. The skeletal figures stepped back, leaving Abigail alone at the center of the apex. She felt the continuum pulse around her, the lives preserved within the brass hearses now flowing seamlessly through her awareness. She was both observer and participant, preserver and guide, witness and steward. The hall itself seemed to acknowledge her presence, the brass gleaming with a soft, iridescent glow that reflected the countless lives she now held in consciousness. Abigail exhaled, her hands pressing firmly against the final apex hearse. She understood fully that she had reached the culmination of her journey, not an end point, but a beginning of eternal stewardship. She was now irrevocably part of the grand catalog, bound to its rhythm, its cadence, its living network of memory, consequence, and awareness. The people who lived in brass hearses were no longer distant figures of myth or legend. They were herself, and she was them. The continuum was complete in her integration, yet infinite in its extension, a living, breathing symphony of existence sustained through her vigilance. The childlike figure floated before her one final time, eyes molten and reflective. You are now whole. Witness, preserve, guide, and sustain. Comprehend fully, act with subtlety, honor every life, integrate every consequence, and endure eternally. You have become what the brass demands. You are no longer separate, you are continuum, and the continuum flows endlessly through you. Abigail's hands remained pressed against the apex hearse as a profound sense of unity enveloped her. Faces, moments, threads, and consequences intertwined into a single tapestry, each pulse a note in the eternal cadence of memory. She understood that eternity was not simply endless time, but the living interplay of lives, actions, and consequences preserved, honored, and sustained through vigilance. She had become the living conduit, the eternal steward, the witness who endured fully and guided wisely, integrated seamlessly into the rhythm of the grand catalog. The whispers, now a singular unified melody, reverberated through her consciousness. Witness, endure, preserve, integrate, participate, sustain, observe, honor, guide, comprehend, embody, eternal, expand, unify, balance, protect, illuminate, endure fully, eternal, interconnect, harmonize, sustain, guide, illuminate, eternal, converge, align, integrate fully, complete, eternal vigilance, eternal purpose, eternal understanding, eternal stewardship, eternal unity, eternal completion, eternal continuum. In that eternal cadence, Abigail understood completely, with unshakable clarity, that she had found her place, her purpose, and her eternity. She was fully what the brass required: witness, preserver, guide, steward, participant. She had become one with the grand catalog, entwined irrevocably with the rhythm, pulse, and flow of life itself. The people who lived in brass hearses were no longer figures of legend. They were her reality, and she had become their eternal embodiment, sustaining the continuum forevermore.